I forward.
It's supposed to be like 10 times bigger.
Upper right-hand corner.
Should say gallery view.
Yeah, okay. Go to gallery view. Yeah.
Got it.
Great.
All right. Are we ready, everyone?
Yes.
All right. I would like to call to order the Novi Public Library Board of Trustees regular meeting Thursday, July 23rd. Welcome, everyone. I would like to request roll call by Secretary Tori Yu.
Yep. Trustee Augusta.
Present.
Trustee Dooley.
Present.
Trustee Lawler.
Nod. He's here.
Yeah, okay.
I
I
see
had
him.
to swipe for a second. Trustee Messernack.
Here.
Trustee Mishner.
I'm present, thank you.
Trustee Wood.
Here.
Trustee Yu, present. Student Representative Chang.
Present.
Student Representative Tangarella.
Present.
Excellent. What I would request before we do the Pledge of Allegiance is if you are not to be called on to speak, if you could please go to mute. And that way we won't have any background noise or any distractions during, feedback, ideas, and reports. Perfect. Thank you. I would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The approval and overview of agenda. Do we have any changes or additions? Yes.
I do.
Okay. Julie, yours first, and then we'll go to Tara.
Okay. I'd like to add an additional matter of board action. It is to approve adjustments to the end of year 1920 268 budget for auditing purposes. Information was shared with our finance committee. We'll talk further about it.
All right. We'll put that as C for
Thank you.
matters of board action. Trustee Mishner?
So mine is just a quick, what you said to the agenda. So I was wondering, I'm trying to figure out the best place to put this, but it's just something related to trustee communication. So would that be better like after the presentation, like 7B? While you're thinking about that, I'll share the other ones.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then the other one is on, it says no meetings have been scheduled for equity and inclusion, but there has been, so there is a report tonight for that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so that's just an adjustment. And then it's under events, it mentioned none. Actually, I was able to attend the two of the Talking Racism events live. So I was present at those under events and marketing.
So I think what we need to do is when we get to those, we would make those additions. I don't know them unless you communicate that to me that you've been at them. That's how I typically put them on in future. If you want to let me know that you've participated, I'll be happy to be your recording secretary for that, to know that. Because I don't go to 100 and some events to know that you're at.
Sure, in the
So
past.
if you can communicate that, I'm happy to put those in at any time.
In the past, I've never communicated it, but since I register for them and there's a record, it's always been there. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I just wanted to make sure it was noted.
Oh, totally. And I think we can add them as we go through so that you can provide additional comments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. For the communication, I'm thinking, do you think maybe that should be just kind of discussed under matters for board action?
No, it's not a matter. It's not. No,
Oh, okay.
it's not a matter. It's not a vote or anything.
Okay,
It's just 7B.
For
Just really
president's
quick note.
report,
okay.
under president's
Got it.
report,
We'll just put it to 7B because it'll, is it just something you want to share or discuss?
Yeah, just a really quick blurb.
Okay, you got it. We'll just put it under there.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Appreciate
And then I have two things. One, I would like to add under board matters for board action. I guess it could be D, the fourth one. Approve adopting the city's diversity statement. But I would like to change the order of matters for board action. I think that we should start out with the retirement incentive. So that should be A. I think that you said the budget for 1920, 1268, that should be B because they go together. And then I think C and D should be approve commitment and then approve adopting should go together. So we just make note to change those if possible. Is there any other changes or adjustments that anyone would like?
Not
Just
for the
kind of-
agenda.
I'm sorry?
Not for the agenda, no. Thank
Okay,
you.
cool. Thank you. All right. Any other questions, raising hands, just so I see? All right. Do I have a motion to approve an overview of agenda with the changes mentioned? Do I have a
Motion to approve the agenda with changes mentioned.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Who was that? Trustee Messerneck? Okay. Thank you, Trustee Messerneck. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. I love how we're learning this new system and way of life. All right. Consent agenda, which is the first one is A, approval of regular minute meetings from June 25th, which is on pages 4 through 12, and B, approval of claims and warrants for 268 and 269, which is on pages 13 through 15. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have changes actually.
Okay. Yes,
Thank you
please.
so much. So let's see here. I'm flipping my pages here, guys. It's been a long day. All right. It's not a big deal. It just says silent intellectuals on page 6. It should be individuals. I think that was just like probably a word swap there. It's not a big deal, but I don't know who silent intellectuals are.
Oh, silent and, okay, right under Director Farkas sent a thoughtful
Yeah.
email.
For
and
silent
then-
intellect,
okay.
and it should just be individuals, not a big deal. And then just a few things, like in some of the text, it actually did mention that that the original commitment was well received by others. That was actually noted in the last meeting, and it's not mentioned in the minutes. And I think it's important that it is mentioned in the minutes that that the first commitment was actually well received by others. Like everybody was in sync at that time. I think it's important that that's noted. It's okay if things have changed, but I want to make sure that we're being honest, that at that meeting, everybody was in sync.
Where is that? Where are you asking to have?
That's under the talk about the importance of Black lives, the ability to initiate action, also the board's dedication to the strategic plan.
Okay, sorry.
That would be 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you're fine. This is a lot. That would be 4, I want to say 4 paragraphs down on page 6. Of course, 6 doesn't have a number in it. So there's
Okay.
that. Okay, and then on page 7, so it said on the bullet point 2, it says Director Farkas would like to survey the community for their input. It actually said, and I re-listened to it, specifically surveyed the Black community. It said that, the Black community, or she said that. She's not it. You're not it, Julie. But it was said the Black community, not the community. So I just don't want to be erased because that's actually what it said.
Okay.
Okay. And that's it for minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Trustee Dooley?
Real quick, So we said we were going to have a special board meeting planned for Tuesday the 30th. Would it be appropriate to note that that never happened?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
Yeah, because people may be looking for that, and so we can just add underneath maybe not held.
Yes.
By you mentioning it, it'll end up in the minutes for next time, by you
Oh.
having that dialogue. Yes.
Yeah, we covered a lot, so I appreciate anybody adding stuff that may have been missed or misinterpreted. Absolutely. Are there any additions or changes anyone would like to make? All right, and anything with the claims and warrants for on 13 through 15? Any questions or discussion? All right, do I have a motion to approve the regular minute meetings and claims and warrants?
Motion to approve.
Was that trustee Wood?
I think I motioned, but I think we both did it at the same time. It might have been Bill.
I believe it was trustee Lawler.
All right, and then, so trustee Lawler, and then Kat, would you like to second?
Yeah, I'll just second it.
All right, all in favor of the consent agenda with changes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And if I miss something or go too fast, please raise your hand and I will absolutely rewind. So please note that. All right, and number 6 is correspondence, and we have 2 emails, and they're on pages 47 and 48.
So they're not in the normal order that we would put them in the packet, and the only reason why was because I wanted all of this information to be encompassed together, when we go through it throughout the evening, which I believe we will. So the first email is from Sharon Trumpy, a Novi resident, and she is putting together, looking for some statements and some action from the library board when it comes to race relations and the library having a statement or commitment from the library board. And that is on page 47. And then the second letter is to the library board from Anonymous, and it is questioning the discussion that the library board had on June 25th and the commitment statement that was brought forth at this time for conversation.
And I apologize for sending that twice. I did not realize everybody had it, but I appreciate you letting me know you already received that.
So I'm happy to, if anyone wants to add anything further in regard to those 2 letters, please just let me know.
Well, I appreciate that. Did someone have something?
I'm sorry, what's the question? I didn't know do you want us to respond to correspondence or like what's?
I'm just putting the information out there as I normally do. I gave the topic and what it is. I appreciate both, both responses that were received by the individuals and, the anonymous, but I don't know, but the residents that sent in information. These have been the only 2 letters received within the last month or so. And I put them in relation to the conversations that the board has been having.
I think it's just important that people see what type of feedback we're receiving, and we try to make sure we bring everything forward.
Sure. I guess I'll ask more directly, and you guys can tell me what you want, and I'll flow with whatever's best for you. Are you looking for opinions, or are you just like saying this is what we have, so consider this as we go along?
Yeah, no, I just think it's just.
I'm just introducing them, which I normally do.
Okay, that's fine. Thank
I
you.
don't think we normally necessarily discuss. It's kind of like when someone stands before us, it's not a question and answer session.
That's what I was wondering, Melissa. Thank you.
So,
I think it's just an acknowledgement that they're in there.
Yeah, and I just want to be above board and make sure I know what's going on. So thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Trustee Dooley.
Okay, so for the email from Anonymous, it actually had like not a person's name attached to it, but it called out a specific moniker. Is it appropriate to include that instead of just anonymous? We can't put the actual email address, but they did call themselves by something.
Oh, I didn't know that. I only saw an email.
Oh.
I think they called themselves by Novi Friend.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. It's technically a name, even though it's still anonymous.
Sure.
Yeah, I never include people's emails, and that's why I didn't.
Yeah,
because of privacy.
Yeah, for sure.
I did not realize that. I just put from the letter, I took anonymous, which was at the bottom of the letter.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Mhm.
If other board members think that it's sufficient, that's good too. But that was just my question.
For sure. All right. And now we have the presentation. Oh, any more discussion on that, or can we go to presentation? All right. All right. If everyone could please mute, I'd appreciate that. All right. We're going to go to number 7, presentation. And this is for our lending library from Community Financial Credit Union. So, Julie?
Yes, so I'm very excited to be introducing all of you as board members to Natalie Mclaughlin. I've had the pleasure of working with Natalie for many years. Community Financial Credit Union has been a huge supporter of our library in many ways over the years, a large part in relation to literacy. When we were talking about over the last few years the opportunity to grow our literacy and grow our connection with our North community, I found the opportunity with a few business members in Novi to see if there was any thought to connecting a business with our kiosk. And Community Financial Credit Union, under the leadership of Natalie, stepped up and showed interest in our Lakeshore Lending Library. I'm very excited that Community Financial Credit Union has taken on the opportunity to sponsor the Lakeshore Lending Library in the amount of $40,000 over the next 4 years at $10,000 per year. That is a significant amount of money that's being sponsored to us. In fact, it covers more than half of the kiosk in order to put it in our north end. I couldn't be more proud that we're growing our commitment to our Novi community with having this new kiosk and making a connection with our north end residents who we know we have a smaller usage and outreach to. And now this is an opportunity to grow even more in our north end thanks to Community Financial Credit Union. And I am going to say the leadership of Natalie to see that there was an opportunity with the Novi Library to grow this. So Natalie, thank you for joining us tonight. And I would like to then turn over to you for you to add some words. But it's a pleasure seeing you. And I thank you for your commitment and the Community Financial Credit Union commitment that has been going on for a number of years.
Well, thank you. And it's great to see all of you. And it's actually been glad that we have these kinds of connections through all of this, because it really is nice to see some smiling faces since we're not out and about as much as we normally are. So, and I'm home, as you can see. So yes, we are, as an organization, as Julie said, we've been partnered with the Novi Library for years, the Parks and Rec, the city, doing a lot of different pieces within the community of Novi. And we feel financial literacy, although we call it financial wellness now, that term has changed a little bit, but is a piece of this. All literacy starts with reading, whether it's math or science or any of it. And so we are super excited about this project to be able to get some books into hands of people who might not be able to make it into the main building. And hopefully, if it piques their interest and they really get engaged, they will then come and take advantage of all the opportunities that you guys have. Amazing things going on in the building. So thank you for allowing us to be a part of it and sharing in the story. It's really exciting. I can't wait to see it. You can't really see behind me, but I did actually go pick up our giant check, because if I were in person, I'd have this with me. You can't really see it, but the glare, but it does say Novi Public Library and $40,000 for the lending kiosk. And when we're able to actually go out to the location, then we'll probably bring it again with us. But I wanted to just say thank you to all of the work that you're doing. It's really important, and it's just great to come alongside you and partner for this project.
I'd love to give you a round of applause. So I think we all can clap in some form or fashion. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. I will share that with our team. I don't do this alone. Julie's very generous to give me a lot of the kudos, but we have a great team, and I will share your thanks with them as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, you have been a wonderful supporting organization over the years. And it's a pleasure working with you as well as other team members that I've had the opportunity to. I know you're more my direct contact, but you do have a great team. And I thank you so much for always seeing very much positive opportunities with the Novi Public Library.
Absolutely. We'll just keep on with all the great leadership and the great ideas that you guys have as a board. It's really a vibrant organization, and I get energized whenever I'm around it. So it's great. So thank you for allowing me to be part of the story.
And I'd like to thank you on behalf of the board, if everyone wouldn't mind me doing that, to say thank you. Your generosity and support is overwhelming and very much greatly appreciated. And I'm looking forward where we can all be together, socially distancing, of course, and get some pictures of us and see the new kiosk and everything. So thank you so very much.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great
If you
project.
don't mind, with Natalie being on our presentation at this point, I will give a little bit of some details because I know that she'll end up leaving our meeting, and that way she's not leaving without knowing just a few things. I know they'll come up again in our meeting later with some updates, but we are planning for mid-September. We did have our time frame move a little bit in terms of the kiosk being installed. So we're looking at mid-September now. I'm actually more excited now about that time frame because it is a wonderful and organic time period because of school starting. What school will look like, we don't know yet, but that connection with families and children and the North End and the school district with Walled Lake Community School District being one of our partners as well to connect those students with the kiosk. Also, as one of our larger older adult communities of Fox Run, as they open back up and start to potentially get out more and know that there's a connection with the library, that'll be another place that we actually do some more marketing and outreach to them. And so I know we've moved a little bit in a time frame, but Natalie, I will continue to keep you abreast of grand openings which have not been decided yet. And any events and things that we might plan to do out in the park. It's great that it is outside, and we might be able to benefit from some of that in the fall, hopefully, fingers crossed. But I will definitely keep you in the loop as to how we move forward, but it is for mid-September to be launched.
Okay, great. Thanks for that update.
You're welcome.
Good. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great evening.
Thank you. You too.
Take care. Be
Thank
safe.
you.
Stay healthy.
Yes, you as well.
Yes,
thank you.
Aw, that was so nice. I love happy stuff. All right, and then B, Trustee Mishner, you had something you wanted to discuss.
Sure, just really quick. I wanted to make a note on trustee communication when it comes to like important details and things like that, like important data that we're supposed to get. The phone is not something I'm using right now very often because we're in a global pandemic and I'm a mental health private practice owner. So just a quick snapshot. I'm literally fielding calls daily for suicide attempts and things of that nature. My job is the emergencies in my job look different than the emergencies in other jobs. So what I've started to do to make sure that I'm protecting this space is use the phone less. It's on my voicemail. It's in my communications to my clients. If it's not important, let's contact each other during our actual appointed meeting. So I wanted to make sure it was here just because I did get, Julie did send me some texts wanting to have a phone call, and I just wanted to throw it across the board that when it's business, email is best for me.
I will definitely make note of that, and it's on the record. But I do know that sometimes I think phone calls are important. So maybe if we could find a way to schedule. But I think sometimes email isn't always the best way to communicate because it could be misinterpreted and such. So.
And we work in different industries, Melissa. So I have to do this, okay? So
I hear you.
And right now. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear because I didn't want anyone to think that I was trying to be insensitive, but it also is a record. And I think that's important as well because I have a memory, but I have a lot of things in the air. So in case I get someone's words wrong or things like that, it's also good for me to have a record. So I'll throw that out as well.
Noted on the record. Thank you. Okay. All right. 8, the student representative report.
Well, this is the June 2020 Library Board Student Representative Report by Tarun Tangarala, myself, and Lindsay Gojak. So for Tween and Teen Library programs, there was the Between the Pages Tween Book Club Trivia, which was held on June 24th via Zoom. And participants read Armstrong and Charlie by Stephen Frank. And the purpose of this program is to discover new books and answering trivia questions which come directly from the book's plots, characters, and setting. The attendance was 10 people. And due to COVID-19, the library was closed to the public until July 5th. So a lot of the in-person programs weren't able to happen, but teens were still able to participate in virtual activities such as the online scavenger hunt, which allowed them to know more about the library. And this allowed participants to get a chance to win a gift card to the library's cafe. For Teen Space Update, there has been no update since March 2020.
So the total breakdown of Teen Space numbers in this 2019-2020 school year, in September we had 605 guests, October we had 814 guests, November we had 503 guests, December we had 469 guests, January we had 405 guests, February we had 395 guests, and our last Teen Space month was March due to the pandemic, and that was 168 guests. So for the total of the school year that we were allowed to have was...
Second. Can everybody please
sorry.
mute? There's been some feedback and he keeps getting interrupted. Thank you.
So the total we had was 3,359 guests from the 2019-2020 school year. The tab update, there was no tab. There's no tab over the summer, so it will resume again when the school year starts, which the first meeting will be September 18th of 2020. For upcoming programs, Novi Library is doing virtual programs, obviously due to the pandemic, and from June to August. And some of those programs will include the STEM Building Challenge for Three Little Pigs on August 5th, the Between the Pages Tween Book Club on August 26th.
So for the 2019-2020 end of year presentation, which is by Tarun and myself, and also help of the staff liaisons, Julie Farkas, the library director, and Lindsay Kozak, the information services librarian.
So for the summer 2019 programs, we had Dr. Nitro's Mad Science Show Liquid Nitrogen Ice Cream social program, and took place on July 17th. Dr. Nitro presented a hands-on science show where he explained how nitrogen ice cream is made using the science. The audience was also enjoyed a taste of their own liquid nitrogen ice cream sundaes. The attendance for that was 125 patrons. The Blast Off into Space astronaut training program took place on July 24th. Participants did hands-on activities that allowed them to train like astronauts. Some activities included measuring their height, trying an agility course, and building a space rover. The attendance for that was 23.
Some other additional summer 2019 programs include the STEM Build Your Own R2K Rocket program, which took place on August 7th. The Longway Planetarium from Flint, Michigan actually brought hands-on STEM learning to the library, and participants were able to actually build their own air-powered R2K rocket. And attendance was 40 people. There was also the monthly Between the Pages Tween Book Clubs that happened from July through June, and participants were able to discuss books that they read in different genres, and the program's purpose was to discover new books, encourage reading, and make new friends.
In the fall 2019 and the winter 2020 programs, we had the SAT practice test, and that was held on September 14th as well as February 8th. Participants were able to take a free, full-length SAT practice test, courtesy of college tutors. In September, we had 34 guests, and in February, we had 49 guests. The Tween Cupcake Decorating Party took place on October 16th. Guests were able to decorate 3 cupcakes from various categories: most like yourself, most like a Halloween book/movie character, and most creative. The attendance for that was 75. And finally, the STEM Gingerbread Engineering Challenge program took place on December 17th. Guests built and decorated their own gingerbread houses using graham crackers, frosting, and a variety of candies. The attendance for ages 4 through 8 were 75, and the attendance for ages 9 and older were 60.
For the spring/summer 2020 programs, unfortunately, a lot of the programs did get canceled due to COVID. And some of the programs that got canceled in March include Battle of the Books, Between the Pages Tween Book Club, and the Teen Advisory Board meeting. But even though the library was closed, there were still virtual activities held, such as the Teen Online Scavenger Hunt and then the Teen Poetry Challenge to celebrate National Poetry Month. And for both these activities, participants were able to win gift cards to the library's cafe. And the Novi Public Library plans on continuing these virtual programs through August, and a survey was sent out to obtain feedback about the virtual programming.
So a programs overview, we saw that out of all the teen programs that the library hosted in 2019-2020, we recognize that the programs with the highest teen attendance were the programs that involved like hands-on activities, such as the science show, the gingerbread house, decorating party, as well as the college prep SAT test. We would like to continue offering these type of programs at the library in the future to build off of our attendance records.
Now for the Teen Advisory Board update. So the Teen Advisory Board meetings took place each month from September through May, but there was no March meeting due to COVID-19, and the April-May meetings were held via Zoom. And the 2020 and 2021 TAB officers were selected in the May Zoom meeting. And some of the few goals that we were accomplished that were set from last year include being involved with at least one community service project and increase active TAB members. And on the bottom right, you can see the 2019-2020 TAB officers.
I have an additional TAB update. As a suggestion from one of our TAB members, Ms. Farkas and Ms. Gochai helped TAB collaborate with Novi Rotary's Feed the Need. I'd like to include 3 ways you can still help. You can volunteer your time, donate supplies, even donate monetary supplies. In preparations for future teen stop changes, TAB members assisted with the following: brainstorming ideas for the new layout and furniture needed for the teen space area or teen stop area, completed surveys to provide feedback for a possible name change as well.
For the 2020-2021 TAB goals, these are some of the goals that we set, and it is being involved with at least one community service project or an outreach opportunity, conduct surveys within the TAB members to find out what teen programs should be held at the library, promote TAB through social media and other forms of communication, share TAB information to local high schoolers, and continue to increase activity among the TAB members.
And that concludes our annual presentation.
Thank you, Tarun. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I want to just put a bug in your ear for you to just keep on your radar as we move into fall and our kiosk in the north end, and with you being part of our Walled Lake Community School District, that we can work with you along with our other teams and TABs, but maybe have a direct contact with you so that we can make that an opportunity for our students over on the north end.
I'd be more than happy to.
I know you would. Thank you. And I knew that. I knew that you would respond in that way, which I truly appreciate. So be looking for us to be connecting with you. I've had some conversations with Mrs. Gochai as well as our marketing. So we will make sure to keep you very much involved.
Perfect. Okay.
Any questions or comments from anyone? Trustee Dooley.
Hi, I just wanted to say, because I'm a member of Novi Rotary, how much we appreciate TAB being involved and volunteering for Feed the Need and really promoting and communicating this program. So I just want to say on behalf of everybody, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Trustee Lawler, are you raising your hand? All right. Can you no? Okay. Anyone else? All right, I have 3 things. 1, can you please tell me about the STEM Building Challenge and the 3 Little Pigs? What is that going to look like? Or what is that? Because it sounds very fun. Do you know what they're going to do?
I don't exactly have a knowledge of like what it actually will look like, the program, but I'm sure it'll be another hands-on activity that include or incorporate kids and like building some sort of craft and associating it with the STEM core.
Okay. So kind of like, wood, with straw and wood and cement and all that and different structures, you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Okay. All right. And my second is, can they still do the SAT practice test virtually online? I know we had them in person. Is that something that can be worked online?
So I've asked that question of Mrs. Gochai, and she is working with some of our connections that we've had. I don't know if we have anything yet available. There's been some studying like previous and how to get ready for it. I don't know if we can do the actual testing, but she is working with some of our current partners.
Okay. I know, Trustee Lawler, that was always important for you.
And it is still very important to us and on our radar. It's just trying to figure out how that's doing it. I can tell you that the testing virtually, only because of my own son, they didn't offer it this spring. They're getting ready to start offering again this fall. So we'll, whatever we can do with the current partners we have, we will try, because I know that is very important and of a huge interest to our teams.
Mm-hmm. And I would just like to say thank you to everybody that works with the teen in the teen space and being adjustable and trying to still keep everybody connected, even though there was, the in-person is not, like it used to be. So I just want to say thank you to both of you. And I'm sure no matter what happens, you guys will come up with some very creative and fun activities to bring everyone together. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys next month. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Happy bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing even with how much they did with such a short amount of time. All right. The annual report. Oh, we did that, right? Yes, we already did that. Sorry. Oh, President's report. This would be mine.
Actually, President Augusta, there's if you don't mind, if we can go back up, there's a B.
Yes.
I can give you that report. It's not in relation to our students. So
I apologize.
What you have in your packet is the annual report by Yolanda Hockaday Dennis, who is our teen space monitor. So Yolanda does a wonderful job of putting together an overview of what the year looked like in teen space. And we had a very good year. We started off very strong. Obviously with March and COVID, that's where you saw our numbers obviously completely go to zero because we were closed. But we had a very good attendance record until then, some really good usage, some wonderful programming that came out directly through Teen Space. And that's in correlation with the tab plus with Mrs. Gochai, who's on our library team in order to do programming. So she has made some recommendations, all which sound, very valuable. I am hoping at this point, and of course we will have to follow, governor's guidelines, but I would love to see some form of teen space if it's available and if we can make it work. So I have, started to listen to our school district and how they are going to be putting guidelines in. Obviously right now, teen space would not be able to happen just because of the guidelines for gathering. But if they were to lift and the numbers were to be larger, and if we could do a certain amount and use our whole meeting room, which I would actually use the whole meeting room instead of just the west, I think there's some opportunities for us to provide social distance, safety cleaning and things, and give kids an opportunity, even with the use of our timers, to have that teen space experience, play ping pong, have the ping pong paddles cleaned after usage, things like that. But I'm trying to keep an open mind and an opportunity for teen space to happen if it can, with obviously not having all those guidelines and things yet in place or even what's coming yet from the governor. But it is something I'd like to still move forward if we can. So I'm not saying no to it and it being canceled unless those numbers for gatherings still are kept low.
Perfect. Any feedback, questions, discussion? All right. I would just like to say that I appreciated her comments at the end about recommendations and that this pandemic situation almost leaves me lost for words. I mean, I loved her honesty and, I appreciate her in her statement very much. So please let her know that, and we appreciate everything she does. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry I skipped that. I was a little confused. And then regarding the other comments that she put on 22, please let her know that I just love her ideas about, the input and the limited space and all that, and the food. I mean, I just love, that she's thinking out of the box in a sense. So I appreciated all her comments, and I wrote, love her ideas. So,
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now the president's report. So we have the strategic objectives, which is on page 23, which are amazing. And then Julie has updated all the goals, which are on pages 24 through 33. So you can see the reds are all the additions and all the different things that have been happening. And then, is there any questions or discussions about the strategic plan or the goals before I go on to C? All right, seeing no hands going up. The library director goal. So I just want you to know, and I would talk about that in the HR committee, but I'll do it right now, that we did meet on the 20th, and we had a discussion about, and I received feedback from all the trustees regarding different goals that they would like to see. So we put them together, and then we are going to meet with Julie as the committee and Julie tomorrow. And then we're going to come up with some, as Trustee Wood would say, SMART goals that are completely measurable. And then Julie and the HR committee will come up with some tactics, and then we'll present that to the whole board next month. So I just want you to know that we have met and we are moving forward, and then we should have a final by next month. All right. Any questions about that? Discussions? All right. And that is my report. Treasurer's report. Trustee Wood for the treasurer's report.
All right. Just one second. So you'll find on pages 34 to 36, the approved budget for Fund 268 for fiscal year 2019-2020. Amended in the fourth quarter. Total revenues of $3,145,948 against expenditures of $3,145,914, which is a net positive of $34. The amended budget for Fund 269 is on page 37. Total revenues projected or approved of $39,500 with total expenditures of $39,000 for a net of positive of $500. On page 40 of the revenue and expenditure report for Fund 268, we had total revenues as of June 30th for $197,726. Total expenditures of $2,961,124 for a positive net revenue of $236,124. As in years past, this will take probably about 2 months, I believe, before we'll have these numbers finalized. But I think it's safe to say that once again, Julie, you've kudos to you for coming through with and meeting the budget and exceeding it. So great job.
Thank you.
On page 41 is the revenue and expenditure report for Fund 269. And we had total revenues of $59,447 with total expenditures of $24,567, which again is a net positive of $34,880. So once again, Julie, great job. Kudos.
Thank you.
The balance sheet report, you'll find on page 42 and 43. For Fund 268, it's on page 42 of $2,331,073. The ending fund balance for Fund 269, located on page 43, is $1,710,966. And I do want to, again, just reiterate, I mean, with all the challenges this year with COVID hitting, that's definitely impacted, potentially could have impacted our revenues and probably maybe might even through next year. But, you know, to come through with a positive budget like we did, and I now I can't recall what we were projecting, you know, to be in the red for this year. So as always, I think every year since I've been on the board, at least, you've been able to turn that and keep that in the black. So that should be highly recognized.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments, rest of the board? Barb, did I get the numbers right? All right.
Thank you. Did I have a 2021 report? Like how much our in went up, and did I miss that? Somebody, Jeff?
What do you mean a 2021 report?
Expenses, how much they've gone up since last month?
I reported since this is July. I reported.
June 30th. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm okay. I'm a year off. I'm sorry. I need more water. All right, thank you. Any questions, discussions? I'll get back on the right track. All right, Julie, 11, Director's Report.
Okay, so on page 44, I'm going to start with our staff anniversaries, which are coming up for August. We have Rebecca Powell. She is she's from Information Services. She is one of our Sunday librarians that has been with us for 20 years working on our information desk on Sundays. So, you know, it's unique to have someone just working on a Sunday, and yet her dedication has been 20 years of doing that with us. Wonderful person, and I'm so glad that we are able to keep those types of people with us that long, and for that commitment on a Sunday when she works all during the week and then she gives us a Sunday. So I appreciate her and her time for that. And then Elizabeth Capo, who's from Support Services, she is one of our supervisors. Elizabeth has been with us 10 years, and Elizabeth is on our outreach team. I know she's excited about hearing about the Lakeshore Living Library and how her and her team will be bringing those materials out to the park. So he also does the outreach when it comes to going out to our Fox Run and connecting with some of those communities that we're providing materials and book materials to as well. So I thank both of those ladies for being a part of our wonderful team. Below, I did something a little different this year. You know, in past years, I've put out and asked for my managers to give me recommendations of staff that they thought should be recognized for customer service and above and beyond when it came to goals. And then I would always offer for anyone on the staff to nominate any of their colleagues. This year is a little different. I think we've gone through a lot as a team, and I thought it was important for the whole team to be recognized. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional, but it's because they are wonderful, and I appreciate every day what these 70 people do for me and for our community. And so I wanted to recognize all of them this year. I think everyone stands out as exceptional and has given so much this year. Transitioning from, you know, the fall and new projects that came about, which was, you know, the race car leaving and the cafe coming and the youth department getting some renovations, some of the amazing programming that came on early on in the fall. And then in the winter, you know, we had some crazy building issues, and then we went into COVID, and how quickly they transitioned from working in a building to home and teleworking with literally just about a skip of a beat, you know, and it was seamless. It was amazing. So this year, I want to recognize the Novi Public Library staff as a whole. And I would be in person and I'd be standing at the podium right now in the city chambers, and I would be reading the plaque, which I will share with you, but I will read this plaque and it will proudly be put in our staff lounge where everybody, eats and gathers for lots of different parties and celebrations that we do. That's one of our main places where we can hang out. Right now we're social distancing when we hang out, but it is one of our gathering places. And so I'd like to take a moment to read this plaque, and it says, "Thank you, MPL staff, for amazing dedication and support through both a very productive and challenging year, July 2019 to June 2020. Your commitment to improve guest relations, engage in training, endure building obstacles, and implement new work strategies and services during a pandemic to best inform, inspire, and include the Novi community was exceptional. Making a difference, it's what you all do." So I will be proudly putting this in our staff lounge, and I will be planning to do some celebration stuff with the staff, lunches and things like that. With us not being able to gather, all of us, it's been difficult, but I promise you as a board that I will fulfill making sure that they are recognized and they know how important they are to me, because they truly are. Everyone gave more than 100%. I'd like to take a minute to thank the board at this time, because you also saw that and you also gave to them, an opportunity for a salary increase during this time. And I think that shows your commitment to them as well. And they would have just received that in their first checks in July. And that says a lot. That's a wonderful message that you gave to them, that we are committed to them, and continuing the work that they do for this community and for this organization. So I want to thank all of you as well for the continued support that you give me in order to do that. But it is about them. They are fabulous. And I am truly proud to be working in this organization with them. And I just wanted to say thank you, Novi staff.
I want to say thank you, and to how much they impress me every day with their posts, their programming, their reach out. Every single thing that they do is always just either fun and informational, and it's just amazing. And I love this, and I thank you for doing that, and I thank your staff, and they definitely are very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add to that before she moves on?
I was just going to say really quick, I love it. I think this is the first year you've ever done this where you included everybody, and this is the best year to do that. So that's super creative. I love it, and I think it's the time to do it. It's everybody sacrificed this year, and I was going to ask, like, so how does that work? But I know usually they get the special meal or whatever with the president and you, executive director. But then you kind of answered that question before I got to ask it, because you said you'll make sure that as we're able to, that you can give them little parties and perks here and there. So that's super cool. I love it. I think that was smart.
Yeah, I will, or I'll look into something that, I can do in order for everyone to benefit from in a way that they all feel, that they're being thanked. We will. We have the year, so hopefully over time, gathering might be better, but I can stagger lunches and bring in things certain days of the week and have people choose a day to get a lunch, or even work with our cafe to do something for them. So there's options out there that I'll make sure that they receive something. And I'm looking into an actual gift to be giving to the staff. The friends are very supportive of us. And that's typically when we give something to the staff, it doesn't come out of our taxpayer dollars in terms of the 268 general fund. It's usually donated dollars from our friends where we can use that and give it back to the staff in some form or fashion. And that's where I'll make sure that we do that.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments just about that? Okay, page 45, 46, 47, 48, I know what we will go back to, so I'll just move forward if everyone is comfortable with that. Page 49, we will also talk about, it's in relation to a retirement incentive that has come up from the city, so I'll be happy to address that during board matters. I did want to put in, this is a photo on page 50. This is the Robo Rhinos. They are from the middle school, and they made and donated 20 face shields to the library. So if a guest were to want to wear something of a face shield of that capacity instead of an actual mask, we could provide something like that. And so we do have them available thanks to them. They had reached out to us, and they're part of the robotics team from the middle school chapter. So very proud of them, and I thank them for thinking of the library in terms of their donation and their hard work. Forward, I have just included for you, executive orders that we are falling under, which is page 51 and 2. 53, I included the last e-news that went out with information. I also wanted on 58, because this is really good historical information for us to be keeping as a library. We had the opportunity for the Novi News and their photographer to come in when we were opening on July 6th. And as you can see, some really great photos were put into the newspaper online. And I made sure that I documented them by putting them into your packet so that you could see, the ways that we've taken the precautions and safety measures in order to keep our building as safe as possible for our guests and for our staff. So you can see some great photos through page 61. Page 62 is Barbara Kowski's IT report, and I'll move forward if there's no questions. Page 63 is Keith Perfect from our facilities department and his report, and I'm happy to move forward if there's no questions. Starting on page 64 and 65, this is April Stevenson's report for information services. As you can see, the numbers for different programming towards the top on page 64. And our Raising a Reader on page 65 continues to have wonderful numbers, even with it being virtual. So very proud of seeing those numbers. Bottom of page 65 is the start of Mary Ann Zermulin's report, which is for support services. Definitely some unique numbers there coming in just because of the way her department's being used. But then at the very bottom of page 66, you can see the types of marketing and outreach, video posts, Facebook programming that it's related to when it comes to COVID, that we are still tracking and keeping statistics for. And then page 67 does go into our normal statistics. And in terms of usage of the building in the way that we had been for the past year, and continue to be in many ways, we've just added the COVID and the virtual stuff. We'll continue to do that. And I'll talk a little bit about that more as we get into some of our committee reports. On page 76, I do have a letter that went out from the Friends of the Novi Library. Sue Johnson, our president, and myself, we coordinated a letter to go out just to explain, what we're doing. And this goes specifically to our Friends members. So she was looking for something that came from the two of us just to give people an idea of how we're going to be reopening. At the bottom, as you can see, a photo, and there is a donation of $19,800 from the Friends this year for our 2021 wish list, which is just starting in July. So a huge thank you to our Friends of the Novi Library. Even through this, COVID and the shutdown and stuff, they are still committed to $19,000 worth of programming and IT and services that we will make happen through this year. I had the opportunity to sit down and make some tweaks to the wish list you might have seen early on in budget. There are a little bit of some changes, but really they were able to commit to a lot of what we had already put in place and had hoped for back in January and February when we were doing budgeting. So there's just a few things that have changed. They will be going forward with, as you can see at the bottom, the baby garden wall. If we are able to open and change our phases and see more interaction in the building, we'll get to moving and bringing these types of things back in. If not, they'll hold off until we're ready for it. I mean, I do believe they're committed to earmarking this money for us when it's ready to be used. Then we have Lakeshore Lending Library. They're committed to some programming that hopefully we'll be able to do with it being outside. And then iCube equipment as we, move forward, and die cuts and aprons and some things that support some of the youth programming. So we won't purchase it until we know we're ready to. We want to be cautious, and if we can save the money, we will. But these are things that over this year we'll keep watching to see, if we will actually commit and then get them purchased. But I cannot thank the Friends enough for that continued support. This is on an average, at least 20, sometimes more, thousands of dollars that they give to us annually. Any questions about that? Yeah.
I had one. Thank you for sharing. So I just wanted to say really quick, I wanted to echo what you said about just being appreciative of them, because what stood out to me is that they didn't get to have their gala last year just because of circumstances. And I doubt that that's going to happen this year, the way that life is turning out.
It won't. They have canceled it. They have.
And that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
But what an example that they still gave. It kind of like inspired, it calls us higher. Like, it's not like they made extra money, right? They're typically making, some extra money where it's understandable that they would give to us. So it's really cool and inspiring, because I know that they haven't been able to get the typical money that they're able to get. So that's cool. That's one note. And then the iCube. I was thinking about that this week, how that was going to work out. And I'm sure that that's kind of up in the air right now. I love my iCube. That's where I emote and do my creatives. So I guess that's kind of like got to wait until more phases get in. And then you probably got to figure out a whole new way to do things, right? Because would there be like packs, or do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll tell you that the committee continues to talk, and they have some great ideas. So they are planning some grab and go type of stuff that's related to the iCube. But as we see the usage of the building and we get a better feel, I wouldn't be surprised if coming in the future, if we're not stopped and slowed down from the governor, where we could open up to appointments and then people having access to the room and being able to allow people, one by one, having a time frame and connecting with us. I could see that happening if we can keep moving forward in some form or fashion. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
That's all. They want to. It's just we're at this point, we're not ready to do that, but they are planning as soon as we can, and the comfort level from everyone is there.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Trustee Dooley.
Hi. So I have just a couple things. One thing that I wanted to bring up was April's report. So because I actually work in media and, I produce videos and commercials for my day job, I wanted to say that for the team to produce 17 videos and podcasts in the month of June is an incredibly large amount of work. I wanted to have that on the record, and I wanted to point that out, because the video medium and then also the quality of the podcast that they put together, to me, is incredibly inspirational. I have not done a podcast yet. I know that Trustee Mishner does, and I love hers too. But the staff is just so talented, and I just wanted to go on record with that. So that's my first thing. It's a lot of work. The second thing is I echo both Julie and Trustee Mishner on the Friends, because not only did they not have their gala, which is a big fundraiser, but they also weren't able to sell books. Right. And that's a huge revenue source for the Friends. Yeah. And they weren't able to do that. So the fact that they still were able to give us this incredibly generous donation really means a lot. And, I just want to put out into the community too. They're always looking for people. So definitely, if you want to get involved, please, reach out to them, because they always need more people to help. So thank you.
Well, and I appreciate both Trustee Mitchner and Dooley, your comments about that, because you are correct. They had revenue that was taken away from them by being closed. They are very happy that we are open during phase 4, and at least the Book Nook is available. They're not there physically volunteering, just because, less interaction, the best, but they are coming in at different times of the day to fill the Book Nook as much as possible. Luckily, they had a stock of books that were here on site that were being kept. And so they've been able to go into that reserve and put it into the Book Nook, because still at this point, we're not accepting donations just because of the concerns of quarantine and those types of items, and even having the space to accept. And we're getting a lot of calls, when are you going to do it? But we're not there to do it. So they're not getting the donations to be able to go through in order to put it into the book nook like they normally would on a monthly basis. Well, actually daily they're going through donations when they're in the building. So they're using their reserve right now. I can tell you they've been happy because they have made, with the honor box, they have made some sales. So they were pleased to see it, even with them not being there and not being able to stock it as well as it has been in the past. But they're moving along. Small steps, but they're making them.
Thank you. I before you go on, I just wanted to say thank you to the friends. Their generosity is always mind-blowing and very much appreciated, and they're very, very generous. The meetings I've sat in, you could just tell the passion that they have for the library. Are they doing Christmas in July like they did before? Do you know?
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
They haven't had us market for them then. Typically they do, and I haven't seen it. I don't know if they actually have the volumes that they normally would. And usually they'd be looking at this time coming into August, they'd be looking into youth books and marketing to teachers. But I know for sure they don't have that stock.
Okay.
So we're going to have to figure out, and I'm willing to work with them. They're a little nervous as well, but to work out how we might be taking in some donations so they can continue to move forward a little bit. So that's on our radar to somehow figure out a best way to work with them.
Can't wait because I have a bag of books.
I know. Well, you're not the only one. We are getting calls, emails, a few posts on Facebook once in a while. Hey, when can I drop off my donations? And we're like, hold off. We're staying towards the end of August, and hopefully we can look to see how we might bring that process in. But at this point, it's just not doable right now.
Absolutely. I'm happy to hear that Raising a Reader is still growing, because one of my questions just based on the numbers was, have we reached out directly? Have we done a push to let these new parents and that we have it? So I'm happy to hear that it is still growing. And
we use it as a component to summer reading. So it is a component.
Okay, perfect.
So it's been marketed both that way and then new readers. As we move into fall, we've always had a relationship with the ECEC, which is the educational building down in Taft. So as they move into what their plan will be for preschoolers to come into their building, we'll figure out how we can connect with them.
Perfect. And then I love the reports, like the facilities report from Keith and all the things he's doing. And even though there's not a lot of volume, just all the improvements and the continued maintenance, it's just, they never rest.
They don't. The facilities team, I have to tell you, the facilities team, and there are 3 of them, they do a lot of heavy duty cleaning and sanitizing right now. That is a big focus of their job daily. So, and it's a good thing that there are projects going on, but with there being less projects, they've been able to focus better in order to do that. But that is a big bulk of their day now. And I do appreciate all of them being available and on staff for that. Mm-hmm. On page 77 is the Historical Commission agenda. I haven't received some minutes in a while, and I will be making sure to follow up with them. You'll probably see some coming in August that I can give you. They just got back themselves to doing some virtual meetings. So they had their first virtual meeting in June, and they just had a July one. So I'll be getting those and making sure that you see some more information when it comes to the group. And then the calendar is in through April at this point for 20, and then start into the beginning of 21. Any questions, anything I can answer in regard to my report at this time? Yes, Trustee Yu.
Hi, Hi, I have a question regarding our phase 4 reopening that we're currently in. So I know right now that we are requiring the masks, because that's also the executive order, and we're issuing the 30-minute timer.
Yeah.
With Election Day on the horizon, since I'm one of your coworkers, how will any of our procedures change? Because I know the executive order for Election Day is highly encouraged but not required, and then probably won't be an issue for this upcoming election, but maybe for future ones with the time frame. Like, are we looking into procedural changes at all in that respect?
I appreciate your question, and here is my answer because I have it on my to-do list for all of you tonight for some updates. We will be closing August 4th for voting day. What that means is the building will be open with the gates down, lobby available. Patrons will be able to renew cards and get cards. They can come in and they can request their holds that would be on the hold shelf, only they won't be able to get them because of the gates. And they will be able to use drive up and locker service. They just won't be able to physically walk into the building, into the collections and grab from the shelves. So we are going to be a poll, and this is coming out. I just had a meeting today with our city clerk to go over details, knowing that there were a lot of differences in the way our building worked with the polls. So it was decided this morning, based on my conversation with her, that we will close off just for polling, but as much service as we can provide to get people their stuff that they have at the building, or if they want it. And that'll come out for, it'll drop on Monday morning, August 3rd, to our e-news and website and everything. So people will be able to, they will be able to come into the building, but they're going to get stopped at the gate, and then we will work with them. And we'll get out that information. So that's only for that day that we're going to change and close in that fashion. The cafe was willing to stay open and to open at 7 a.m., knowing that people were coming in to vote. So they're going to switch a little bit for that opportunity. And then we'll go back to just our normal phase. Yep, our normal phase 4. Yeah, you'll be able to get Starbucks. And proudly served. And so then we'll go back to just normal phase 4 and being open and having the building available, the 5th. But that day we're going to just close off people getting into the stacks and stuff. There's too many people coming in different fashions and ways with mask, no mask, that it's just easy to work with people who can come in. However, there won't be timers that day. We won't even have our staff on the timers, but I will have all my staff working through the evening and dealing with holds and lockers and drive up and any services or calls that they would be able to handle, they will do. Great.
All right, thank you.
So what does that mean then? We're going to do the same for November. Okay. So I'm going to see how this works. If we need to tweak it, we'll tweak it for November, but I do feel it's going to be best for us to do the same thing for the November election as well. And the clerk believes you're only going to be in the West meeting room for the poll this time because it's small, but she does think you're probably going to need the full meeting room for the November election. And then we'll have to shift some of our quarantining somewhere else. So it makes sense to be closed that day too. Yeah, great question.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I was going to let you know that we are going to close on the 4th of August and November 3rd for just in-person shelf connections with the collections. Yes, Trustee Dooley.
So I have a question. Since it's predicting that the November election is going to have, it typically shows up as larger volumes of people. Yes. Do you think your facilities team is going to need an extra day to clean the library and sanitize everything?
I don't, because we actually have a vendor. We have a cleaning service that comes in the evening.
Okay,
so
perfect.
They would be doing all that in the evening. And then in the morning at 7 a.m., we do a high-touch major cleaning again before staff arrive. So I think and that's all going to be contained since there's nobody else going to be throughout the building, but it's only going to be contained to the meeting room where the polling location is.
I just want to make sure you guys are supported, so that's why I brought that.
Absolutely. So no, I don't see having to close another day to do that. I think it can be done in the time before we reopen. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Unmute. Thank you. Any additional questions, comments, or discussions before we go to committee reports?
Thank you, Trustee Yu. That's one thing off my list tonight.
All right. Anything else, Julie?
Not at this time. I'll go ahead and interject as committee reports come about. Yep.
Thank you. All right. So I'm just going to go on the record and just requesting and stating that when we have committee meetings, Julie Farkas, our director, should be invited to all of them. Unless it is specifically something that we're making a decision regarding Julie, then she'll be informed. But anything to do with policies, procedures, events, programming, anything to do with the library, I kindly request that Julie is invited, and because she should be a part of all the planning. So the first thing I have is policy committee. Chair Mishner, please.
There's nothing necessarily, but I have a thought that I'll talk about in equity, a tie-in potentially.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can add something, sorry.
Sorry.
So under policy, the first draft of the building policies were sent to our attorney. They're currently being reviewed. And as soon as those go back, that's when I'll be welcoming in the committee to meet with the staff and for us in order for them to hear all the changes. I felt it was easier to have attorney review first and then weigh in on anything that would be of concern before, because we've done a lot of work staff-wise, take all of that, and because if there's concerns, the attorney then shows up with those concerns before then the committee with policy would see them. So then we've already had the attorney weigh into that. That's typically how I've done it in the past. I
just wanted to ask something really quick because I know like last year there was some meetings going on in-house and I'd asked about being included in those meeting invites and I wasn't included. And Melissa brought up a good point about inclusion in meetings. And at that point I was told, well, it's really a lot of in-house stuff.
It is, right.
But I feel really out of the loop. Like I don't get informed about I don't even know what's going on. I wasn't informed about any of this. So how does that work?
The informing that I've been giving over the year is the staff has taken on the brunt over the year to review these and look at concerns, questions, issues on how it relates to the staff, these building policies. We have done a year's work since October of work and revisions and things that we think are necessary to bring to the board and the attorneys, review. So at this point, we put it in attorney review and then it'll come to you to be looked at because we feel like we've put all the work in for you to see what we think, there's not a lot of changes, but what would be changed in terms of building stuff. We've done the work for you and then we make you abreast of them. If there's more questions, then we go from there back to the attorney if you have concerns as a board in terms of reviewing these and then approving. So you've worked hard, and I definitely want to acknowledge that, and I appreciate that in your staff. Weekly, we meet weekly, monthly. I mean, these are meetings that are going on like all the time.
Sure. I think for me, it's kind of like what I was talking about, and I think, like I said, Melissa brought up a good point of communication. I think that's really important for us to be cohesive. When she went to board report or committee reports, I said nothing at this time, just one thing that I was thinking of. And of course there was something, but I didn't even know. So I think there's
a bullet point right there for it. The first draft was given to the building policy. I said that they'd be going to the attorney last month, that we'd be turning them over to the attorney for review.
So I think what I'm asking is that if I can be included just in communications, so I know, since I'm the chair of the policy committee, I don't want to just be a figurehead. I want to actually be involved like I am with the other committees. That's all.
Okay. That's all sure, absolutely. And I thought I communicated that last month that they were going to the attorney. There wasn't anything that has changed.
I think in the past, you have always worked with your team and feedback since they're most direct. And then you've always come to the committees and then you've sat down and presented thoughts and ideas. That's how it's worked for.
No. I'm so sorry. I've been on policy committee for 5 years. And that's not how we used to do it. I used to actually meet with Julie. She always pulled me in.
Right. We haven't done it yet. I've been doing I have followed the same policy. This has taken us much longer this year to do. And what normally I do is we'll be sitting down with you to give you all of the revisions and everything to walk you through all the work that's been done. I have not changed my process.
Yeah, you'll have your meeting.
Yeah,
just like I'm sorry.
You're going to have multiple meetings because we won't get through it in one day. There's 50 some policies, so we'll have multiple meetings with you to go through them, and they've always had attorney review.
Yeah, before they're presented to the committees, this has always been how things have been done. Then it'll come to committee, and that's when the committee will review, discuss all the changes, and then that's where you can make the recommendation. So this is how, in my understanding and in my experience, that things have always been done for HR, for bylaws. We've never been part of, the committees have never been part of the behind the scenes with the staff.
Right. So I'm not there yet, Trustee Mitchner, with bringing in the full committee yet to sit down to go through all those revisions. They're sitting with the attorney. The next step is for you to be included in those conversations, for you to see the suggested revisions of those policies. Because it's my hope that I'm bringing you good information that you can look at. You've seen reviews and why it's changing. We have those conversations with you because I'm looking for the committee then to take these as a whole and bring them back to the board to say, we reviewed them for all of you. Yes, you're going to get copies to look at them, but we feel confident with what's being presented to you as a full board in order to move forward. So I'll be looking for that committee to give me that feedback prior to them coming to the full board. But we're not there yet. These have taken us a lot of time. And when COVID happened, we tried to do Zoom calls and things, you know, and then things would come up where I had to cancel a meeting because there's something else that came up that actually superseded this committee meeting in order to do this. So I haven't changed my process.
It just hasn't gotten to the committee level yet.
Right, I'm not there yet. Yeah, I haven't been able to bring them to the committee yet, but they're coming.
All right. Thank you, Julie, for clarification.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Anything else to add for policy committee? Or... No. All right. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. HR committee. So I've already basically gave my report. I don't think I said thank you for everyone's feedback, for getting it to me. I apologize for missing that. So thank you. And then we'll look forward to meeting with you tomorrow, Julie, and then coming back with the full report for the board next month.
Okay.
Any comments? All right. Finance committee, Chair
sorry,
Wood.
before you, President Augusta, before you move on, I'd like to just, if I can give you some information about the retirement incentive before it goes to the matters for board action, if you don't mind.
Okay.
It's on page 49, just last week. So this was just as I was getting this board packet put together, was this information being finalized with the city. And coming forward in order for we have 4 library staff that are eligible for a retirement incentive. This is the first time the city is doing this. And we have 4 library staff that would also be eligible if the board, when we go to board for matters for board action, if they want to approve doing this. I highly recommend it. It's an opportunity, you know, for an incentive that we've never done in the past. I don't know if it'll ever come up again. You know, this is the first time the city's actually doing it. They had a number of staff that they could offer it to. They didn't not want to include the library when putting this together. So what you have is a memo that would be shared with the 4 staff that are eligible if approved tonight, which is a $12,000 one-time payment in order to take retirement. And so you can see the information provided. This is directly from the city and how they wrote theirs for their employees and how it affects the library staff that would be eligible. So it is a cost for us. However, I see it as a good cost in order to provide this opportunity for the first time. And then it does, there is some vacation payout as well that would be also needing to be factored in. But it would be going into effect as of July 27th if this was approved tonight in order for someone to be eligible and then opt into taking the retirement. They don't have to, but it's for people that would be offered the opportunity.
Do you have any sense about whether all or some of the 4 might take it?
I do have a sense. I don't believe all will, but I do have a sense that some might. Yes. So I'm giving you, the total being 48,000. I don't know if we will expend all of that.
And would you look to fill the positions of the boys that left?
That's a great question. Yes, I would. These potential positions are critical to the organization. And so we would have to fill them. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to review that just at this time. I know that we'll actually vote, but thank you.
Got you. We'll have more discussion and vote. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill, for asking the same question I was going to ask. All right. Julie, do you have anything else for the Finance Committee?
Finance
Or
Committee.
HR, I'm sorry.
HR. Okay, not at this time for HR. Thank you.
All right. Finance Committee, Chair Wood.
The committee met virtually May 15th, and so that was a couple meetings ago. So nothing since the last meeting.
All right, Julie.
I did share some information with the committee this week. The city is already planning for the year end and for auditing time. And our window is shorter than last year. It went into August, and they're cutting us off now actually in July. I'm confident that at this point, what you saw as the report that you looked at tonight that Trustee Wood provided, there's been a few more calculations and numbers that came in under personnel, and I provided that to the Finance Committee this week to finalize. Personnel did go over 100% if you look at the larger category. And in order for us to stay in good standing with auditing, I have a couple of 5 lines that I would like to recommend for us to increase in order for it to have, it doesn't show that we're over 100% in that personnel line as we move forward. And they're looking for that. It has to be done. Our board meeting next time, unfortunately, is after the due date for any changes to the year-end report. I'd be happy to walk through where those areas are.
So is this an amendment for 1920 then?
It is.
Okay.
It is amendment for 1920, just so that we can stay in compliance and there won't be any concerns of auditing as they move forward for that process in the fall.
Okay.
Still leaves us in a very good revenue in terms of saving, but there are some dollars that have to be taken into consideration. There were some lines that went over.
Okay. All right. Well, can we revisit that during board action?
We can. Thank you.
Is that okay, Trustee Wood?
Yeah, I'm just reading the email now. I don't.
Okay. All right. We'll
revisit
revisit it.
So I haven't had time to really look at it.
All right. We'll revisit it just in case you have any questions then. Okay. All right. Chair Wood for Events, Marketing, and Fundraising.
Huh?
Chair you.
You.
Sorry, sorry. I apologize, sir.
All right. So no updates in the Events Marketing Committee. It's in our committee work, but Trustee Mishner did attend the Talking Racism event live. Do you want to provide any comments there, Trustee Mishner?
That's better. I'm sorry. I said it was great. It was excellent. I think Gail did she's got a background in journalism and it showed. She did a great job moderating, but I think the presenters, I went to the first 2. I want to specify, I shared with Julie and my equity team that I plan on catching the other ones on rerun when I get around to it, because they're good. They ask great questions. She asked great questions. They really call us higher, I think, and they don't back down. They were very honest and authentic about where we're at as a community, as a state, as a people. So I think it was an excellent series, and hopefully we can continue to do things like that. And I'm hoping that we can send each of, this is like a side note I was going to put in the Equity Committee report, but I'll say it now. Can the Equity Committee or even the trustees send a little thank you card to each presenter? Because I think that would be kind of nice, because they were great, and just thanking them for coming in from the board.
You could get that information from Gail. I'm sure she can provide that to you.
Sure. I just thought it was a nice gesture. That's all.
No, I know. If you're looking for contact information in order for you to send the thank you, I'm sure she can give you all that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Trustee Dooley.
Hi. So I'm sorry I didn't let Trustee or Julie know, but I also attended one of the Talk Racism series live. I attended the one on the 16th. So I just wanted to let you guys know. And Gail's doing awesome. These are really great programs. So thank you.
And if I can add something real quick, President Augusta, when it comes to events and marketing and just programming in general, I want to let you know that we have made a decision to keep all of our programming virtual through the end of December. It was a time for us to start making a decision, and we truly don't have enough information. And I don't want to see the staff waste time planning something in person when I'm really not confident that will happen. So we will be keeping everything virtual through the end of the year. We have one event.
Please mute everyone.
All materials should be checked out before we close. Thank you.
It was our overhead. It was our overhead speaker, sorry. So from the library. So I can't hear that and try to talk at the same time, sorry. But so we will stay virtual through the end of December. We'll continue to monitor it as the fall comes to start looking at the new year. And then so that's going to keep us consistent. We do have an event though that's going to be in person at Paradise Park. They've been partners of ours, you know, for a number of years. I have April reaching out to see how the summer reading program will look if the kids want to interact at Paradise Park. We're trying to make that work for kids who want to join to be recognized and celebrate the end of summer reading. So that's an option for potentially an in-person, as long as numbers that work with their business work with us. And then we've put together, knowing the numbers right now work, for a Thursday night, every Thursday in September, which I know one of them's a board night, we won't be able to go, but at least 3 of the Thursdays from 7 to 8:30, it'll be a September Song Fest. And so it'll be entertainment and music underneath their pavilion outside that we will try to offer something in person. Other than that, it will be virtual. Our community read has been planned to be virtual, and you will be getting information about that very soon, about the book and our launch. And so I just wanted to give you just a little heads up as to where we're going for future.
Thank you. Anything else, Trustee Yu?
Nope. That's it. Just a personal note, my connections get a little spotty, so in case I pop out, I will pop back in eventually.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, anything else? We'll go to Building Landscape Committee, Trustee Messernick.
Thank you very much. The first point you'll see in the agenda is on grounds, and while that work was completed, it's not been completed satisfactorily. We're still having some pooling problems on the north end. The vendor is going to come back out and take a look at that. So it was done, but it's not done, if that makes any sense.
And actually, I can update that more for you, Trustee Messernick. Okay. They were actually out today. They do see a concern. It's still in relation to the work they had done. So they're going to look at, they've got some surveying to do, and they're going to look at potentially the grade changing. The water just needs to flow better to the drainage. So they are going to be back and working on it.
Good.
Yep.
Good. The second bullet point, as you see there, the library lending library kiosk has been pushed back to September 14th for fairly obvious reasons, I think. The library van, the wrap has been completed. Julie, I know you were looking for sponsorship opportunities. Anything come up on that lately?
I was on a call today for a potential, so I will keep you posted. Right now, the only name that's on the van is in relation to the commitment and sponsorship that we made with Community Financial. So their name is also on the van because they got that opportunity with the larger gift. But I am working on some others, and I did have a potential call today. I'll keep you posted.
Okay. I'm going to flip the next two and talk about the book nook first. You've already heard that it's been opened and they're using the honor box. I don't think there's anything else new to talk about on that. With regards to the cafe did resume operations in early July. We have a situation that I'd like to make a suggestion or at least get comments from the board. As you may or may not recall, The agreement that we have on the cafe calls for them to pay us a $500 amount or $6,000 a year for the cafe. It's a different arrangement than what we had before. The bad news is that because of COVID-19 and because of the library being shut down, they've had very little business. And even now that we're somewhat open, they're getting very little business. And that probably is not going to change in the near future. I would like to throw out the idea of, let's say, forgiving them that monthly payment for a predetermined amount of time, and we can always review it at the end of that predetermined amount of time. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about that.
I think that's a reasonable and equitable thing to do.
What's the mechanism to do something like that? Because we have a contract, it's a signed contract, and from a legal perspective, how would we implement that?
I think it's just honestly as easy as sending a letter to them, letting them know that at this time we recognize that they are, struggling, that they've not been able to, have the sales that they probably would have been expecting had it been a normal type of operation. And like Trustee Messernick says, forgiving them and letting them know that for a certain amount of time that we would not be looking for their monthly contribution, until we can, and I think it's goodwill and a way to show a partnership with them in order for them to stay and not walk out, or decide that it's just not even working at all. They are getting sales. They're slowly getting better, but it's going to take time. And if we see, the schools are one of their biggest revenue sources, and depending on what's going to happen with school time, we don't know what that could mean for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. I just I think we need to understand what the correct mechanism is, and then what is the duration? How do we determine the end date of the duration? Right. I think those are two things. But everything you state there, I think, is absolutely on par. It's a great partnership we have right now. Nothing but positive news, and we definitely don't want it to end prematurely because of this.
So I would write a letter on behalf of the board saying that we've discussed this, and at this time we'd like to let you know that we wouldn't be charging. I'll look to you. I mean, I am totally fine if we wanted to do this through December, just to see, because then we'd be going into the budget year, letting them know that we won't be looking for anything and we'll revisit, but giving them a time frame of no revenue and collected, from them for, I'll call what it is, a monthly lease for the space through the end of December, if you were comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think forgiving that payment through the end of the calendar year makes sense, and we'll revisit it later. If schools reopen come the first of the year, then great, we go back to what we were doing. But it's hard to see more than about 2 days ahead right now with this pandemic.
Did they send?
Sorry, go ahead.
Did they send checks for the months that they were closed?
They actually sent the full amount and paid up front. So they weren't sending by monthly. So last year we collected in full. That's kind of why I'd like to get this letter out so that they know in advance that we wouldn't be expecting anything until potentially January.
Would we need to put that to a vote, or can we just say yes and it's okay now?
I don't believe it needs a vote because the contract actually is signed by me. It's just, I like to have the letter you'll see next month because I'll draft it. And if I have your okay in order to follow up with something like that and you're all in agreement, I don't believe it needs a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Because right now we want to keep our contract as it is. It's just right now we're sending a letter in response to the contract that we're going to, make a change for this time period. And it's in their favor.
Sure. And quite frankly, I love that because I'm still paying rent for my office and I have not been working there. I've been working.
I know.
They won't,
right.
They won't let me not pay. So I know how that feels. I'm in favor of it. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah. So is everyone comfortable with through the end of the year, through December?
Yes.
I'm in favor.
I'm in
Is
favor.
anyone not in favor or wants to discuss more? No. I think you have our full support, Julie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. We want to keep them. It took a lot of work. They are such an asset to us
Yeah.
and to our community, and we want to. Yes, Trustee you.
Give you 1 second to unmute. All right. Just a question in terms of so the cafe has mentioned that sales are low, which I think library traffic has been lower is what I've seen. I know when the cafe was coming in originally, we talked. Well, it was put out there potentially having signage, but that kind of came back as not like the best idea. But now that council has kind of relaxed some of the signage ordinances, is that something that they could consider the cafe and even us?
I'd be happy to look into it. Absolutely.
Great question.
That is such a smart question.
Thank you, Tori.
This is my list of questions for today.
Good. Yeah, no, that's great. I will definitely check into it based on the city. Yes.
All right. Any additional discussion for the building landscape committee? Thank you.
I just have a couple things to add if you don't mind.
Okay, of course.
Okay. So yesterday, I'm informing all of you that I was on a Class 6 Michigan Libraries call, and that's with directors with Class 6 libraries. We have been following some science and some studies that have been done based on the virus and how it relates to sitting on materials. And as you know, right now, we have been doing 72 hours for a quarantine. Starting today, we moved to 96 hours. So it's 4 days. And that's based on studies that have been done over the last couple months that just finally got released. Many of our libraries, especially big ones, have gone to that 4-day quarantine. And many of them started this week. We started it today. So I just wanted to let you know, it's a change in some information. It's a little longer, but it's because they were seeing, we've not had any issues. Let me start there. We've not had any reported issues, but there is science that came back that showed that on different types of surfaces, whether it's a shiny type paper surface, a plastic surface, which would be your DVD case, that it could potentially be sitting on it a little longer. And 96 hours was more the standard to follow. So many of us this week changed, and we did today. Okay.
Better safe than sorry.
Yes. No, I would be. I really do. I think it makes, especially if we're all going to follow each other and kind of, we have these calls almost weekly where we're touching base with each other to make sure, how are you doing versus us? And if we can have a similar message, it helps across the state with our libraries. I know we're very different communities, but many practices can be similar. And if we can keep them consistent, we are trying to. So that was one change, just so that, there's a continued safety and opportunity for that. So 96 hours now is that change. Also, in regard to building, because of the governor not lifting those gathering numbers better, my recommendation is we won't be having an in-service for the staff on August 21st, which was scheduled for Friday. We're just going to keep the building open as normal, a normal usage day. I will look to see as we move forward, and maybe things loosen up instead of hopefully not go backwards, that we might be able to look at potentially that November date where we're closed because of voting. Then maybe we can use that date for another day, and we're already closed in some capacity. But we can only gather in groups of less than 10. That's really hard to do. And I don't want to put anyone in any uncomfortable position of us all meeting together. Even though we've been very careful, we are wearing masks and we're social distancing. I just don't want to take any of those chances with our staff, knowing that we've all been very safe and very healthy. So it'll just be a normal day of operation on Friday, August 21st. Those that are scheduled to work would work. And we have enough time now to plan for if you were going to have to come in, we'll make it work with the hours. No one would be kept hours or anything. They'd get their normal schedules.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Not on that topic. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Dooley.
Hi, so I don't actually have any commentary for the Building and Landscape Committee, but we've skipped over strategic.
Oh.
So I just wanted to say I have no report at this time. To make it a
Thank you, Kat.
I'm so sorry.
I'll put a few more spaces in between. Would that be helpful?
Thank you.
I just need to read better.
No, it's hard to see it all. I will. I'll try to space some things out better. I can do things too very easily with a dot. So it's hard.
You know what happened is I wrote a note above it and then it kind of blended together. So it was totally my error. I apologize. And your strategic committee is very important. So I truly apologize for skipping you. And thank you for your report. All right. Anything else before I move to bylaw committee?
No activity at this time.
Julie, do you have anything?
I do not. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. The Equity and Inclusion Committee, Trustee Mishner, please.
Hey guys, okay, so I sent you all, I wanted to like make sure everything is as transparent as possible, and I definitely appreciate the nudge to make sure Julie's included. I want to just go on record saying it wasn't like an intentional snub or anything like that. I think we were going to have that original meeting the 30th, and I kind of had that in my mind, and then we couldn't, we just kind of kept going. So I want to make sure that you know that, got it, you'll definitely be included. That being said, transparency wise, everybody has this from me in their email. And I just want to encourage you. It's just, I did a couple things. We did a couple things. Okay. Our equity committee has met twice, on Zoom, since we have been in existence. And, I'm just going to kind of go from this, but you'll have this as well. What I want to encourage you with is don't worry, I'm not going to go through this whole presentation. Some of it's research that you can read on your own. I think it's really helpful knowledge, because really when it comes to issues of race relations, it is so polarizing at times. It's very uncomfortable. People don't like to talk about it. It makes them feel clammy. I get it. But I think that we'll find out a lot in this report. So Equity Committee summary, and this is research from June through July. So I just put my name, Jeff, and Kat. I wrote your name out, Catherine. So a quick timeline. Email was sent from Julie on June 26th to seek an opportunity for alignment with the city in our special meeting that was scheduled for the 30th to complete the commitment and send out. So our first meeting was canceled. So I did note that in the timeline that we did have a different meeting scheduled, but that one didn't work. I mentioned the Talking Racism series. I don't have to go over that again because I already covered it. So you guys got that information. And our meetings were on the 7th and 14th. Let's see. As of this week, I just noted that we have some difference of opinions on the statement, the commitment statement. Before that wasn't the case, but there is that. So I wanted to note it because we have emailed a little bit this week, although we did not get to meet. Julie invited us to the PLA Twitter Inclusion Talk, which is PLA stands for Public Library Association. Which is really cool that she did that, because on the second page, I actually had their PLA statement and call to action for public library workers to address racism. And I just felt like we were in sync. On that note, it actually mentions that Twitter talk on August 5th that we all were invited to on the equity committee. And it's like, basically, if you've never been to a Twitter chat, it's super easy. You just hashtag and kind of follow along. It's very organic, and I'm sure that anyone else who wanted to come, just pop on Twitter, and if you have questions about how to get on, I can help you. I'm sure Kat can help you too. Any social media people, I'm sure can help you. And I just suggested that we watch the reruns on the racism talks because I thought they were really relevant, and I think there was some good stuff in there that I definitely felt inspired by. So PLA that's one of the organizations that Julia spoke very highly of, actually, even more so than ALA, actually. And I know she's actually gone to their conferences out of state before. I think that's where you met with the kiosk person originally, if I'm not mistaken. She's taken staff there. So I think our library has a really good presence with PLA. So really quick, their statement, PLA statement and call to action for public library workers to address racism. So this is what their call is for their members to address racism. They said PLA statement condemning systemic racism and violence against BIPOC people. And I'll go into detail with what that means. That's Black, Indigenous, people of color. That's what that stands for. The Public Library Association, a division of the American Library Association, calls on library workers to commit to structural change and to taking action to end systemic racism and injustice. PLL thanks members of this task force on equity, diversity, inclusion, and social justice for their guidance and leadership in development of this statement and call to action. The statement recognizes and supports ALA's statement condemning violence against BIPOC protesters and journalists, and ALA's statement acknowledging ALA's role in perpetuating structural racism. PLA applauds the creation of a working group to create recommendations on restorative justice practices and the use and presence of police in libraries. That's their first bullet point. They go on to say, the Public Library Association shares the nation's anger, sadness, and frustration over the epidemic of violent acts perpetuated against Black people, or perpetrated against Black people. We demand justice for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless others, and for their families and communities. We stand in solidarity with Black people engaging in collective action against systemic racism, oppression, and injustice. Across the country, the pattern of police violence in response to protests, coupled with the pandemic that is disproportionately impacting communities of color, further reveals our country's disgraceful legacy of state-sanctioned violence against Black people. We join the chorus of voices demanding an end to violence and insisting that Black lives matter. Because we believe that libraries transform, we also commit to honest reflection and structural change. We acknowledge that public libraries have been and still are complicit in systems that oppress, exclude, and harm Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color. The library profession remains overwhelmingly white, despite decades of emphasis on diversity and inclusion. We see incredible examples of self-determination and resilience by BIPOC librarians and educators, yet the profession has largely failed to improve conditions and ensure pathways for advancement among library workers of color. We commit to dismantling white supremacy in libraries and librarianship. We recognize the urgency of this collective work and commit to hold ourselves, our colleagues, and our institutions accountable when we fall short. Call to action for public library workers. We call on public library workers, that's us, to join us in taking the following action steps. Study, amplify, and align with the policy demands of the movement for Black lives. Ask yourself, what can the movement's call to divest from punishment and policing while investing in long-term safety strategies such as schools, libraries, employment, health, and housing mean for you and your library community? Change library policies that punish and criminalize patron behavior. Invest in alternatives to policing and security guards with library spaces. C is not enough to say Black Lives Matter. Evaluate the messages about police and policing libraries promote to children and families in programs and collections. See, policing doesn't protect us, and evaluating children's books about police. Create a plan of action for addressing racism and working towards collective liberation. Start where you are, engage others, and make a long-term commitment to listening, action, and reflection. Address structural racism. Work with BIPOC communities to identify and implement structural changes that must occur within libraries. Build staff investment at every level while shifting resources to support racial equity initiatives in libraries and staff-led action teams. Evaluate policies and procedures using racial equity tools and develop racial equity action plans to sustain this work. Develop and fund programs, services, and collections that center the voices and experiences of people of color and shift power to communities for co-curation and co-creation. Materially support organizations that provide resources and build community for BIPOC working in libraries. Include we hear the Spectrum Scholarship Program and BCALA and JCLC. Spectrum Scholarship Program is a scholarship specifically for people of color in libraries. PLA and the PLA Task Force on Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Social Justice commit to do the following. Convene meaningful conversations about EDISJ, and I'll break that down. That's Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, Social Justice in Public Libraries. In the next few months, we'll be hosting a series of Twitter chats. The next chat will be on creating inclusive communities on August 5th, 2020 at 12 p.m. Central. Identify the action steps above that we are collectively best positioned to address during our next year of work and develop concrete recommendations for PLA to advance racial equity and organizational change in libraries. Evaluate the structure of the task force with the aim of creating a more diverse and representative entity with the capacity to move this transformative work forward, and embrace discomfort. Embrace discomfort, because it's an uncomfortable topic, guys. You know, as we navigate challenging and emotional subjects, to uproot racism and white supremacy within ourselves and our institutions will require immense courage, compassion, and the honest desire for accountability. I love that. So that's PLA's statement. I promise I won't read anybody else's statement, but since we have benefited so much from PLA, I wanted to read their statement. ALA, so in your packet, ALA has a statement too. MLA has a statement. There's some resources and information here. Kat did a great job in navigating some information in this packet as well. She actually sent to both me and Jeff. And Julie, I hope you got to hear it too. Chief Malloy's podcast, which was, I think, the second episode of the new city podcast that's out. And that spoke to, let's see, it was called, I don't know if there's a title to it. It was called Police Matters. I didn't realize that was the name of it. Okay, but it was good. We all were able, I know me and Kat were able to listen to it. Jeff, I'm not sure if you were able to listen to it, but she did send that to us. And I did include it in here. So if you weren't able to listen to it, you have a link in your packet. And I think that's important just to kind of understand like what our community is doing and all of that. Kat also sent some information from her business review about systemic racism and philanthropy. And there's a link in there for you guys. And there's a blurb about the groundwater approach too. So just a lot of education. Our first equity committee meeting summary, we talked a lot about the MLA's homepage starts with Black Lives Matter. Talked about organizations dedicated to Black professionals in libraries and how I really think, we talked about the importance of us being in those organizations, at least like having a membership and a presence. Like there's a conference that goes on every year, making sure that in order for us to have that diverse, great talent pool to choose from, we kind of have to be there, right? So just being aware of those opportunities. And then that's the part about the policy committee partnering with policy, just to add in a hate speech clause, because we did get a complaint about hate speech, and we've had discussion before about like, what do you do when a patron says something that's a slur? And we do have a bullying policy, but it doesn't say hate speech. And I think that would be good for us to just add that in. I double checked because I was like, I think it's in there. And I was like, oops, it's not. So that would be a thought. And in this meeting, we said we were going to develop a committee goal list for the next meeting. Stay tuned. We also talked about pulling together a list of diversity consultants. I didn't get to that part yet, y'all, but we'll work on it. That's homework, right? I've got some swimming around. I just didn't get to it. And then we also talked about a listening session. Jeff had mentioned how he thought it was really important for the staff to be heard. And also we talked about the community to be heard. So maybe like one of our meetings is like an open meeting where it's like, hey, the equity committee is meeting, the board, Julie, whoever else wants to come, like this one would be open, like at least once a month. At this point, we kind of wanted to get the ball rolling. So we met a lot, and we were even going to meet this week. It just didn't work out with our work schedules. We all work a lot, but we did email. Don't worry, we put in our hours. Ideas for partnering. There's a lot of really great opportunities, guys. Wayne State is already, Julie's an alum, and we've got tons of interns from there. Those interns are white, but we can do something with like maybe a Black internship job shadow program or something of that nature. Now keep in mind the library profession is mostly white female. That's just the truth. So in order for us to go further, my thought was even like looking at undergrad programs where they haven't decided yet on their master's degree and wooing them somehow. And that's that piece where we can kind of invite them into our library for a shadow, get to know how, they can learn more about library science or something of that nature. But then that invites them in instead of us taking our stuff out, because I think that was kind of a hiccup thought of like, oh, we don't want to go to other libraries and then kind of get, you know what I'm saying? Like get kind of weird with our own taxpayer dollars. We want to make sure things stay legit, I think is what the thought was that I was getting. Okay, so job postings, making sure that Wayne State has them when we have them.
We do that.
Sure. I'm just sharing. Well,
Yeah, no, I just wanted you to know that we do. I mean, our library schools are the first for us, if it's a library position and a librarian, that we are going directly to our two. We are fortunate to have two library schools in our state, both the University of Michigan and Wayne, that have a library program.
Yeah, they're great. And
yeah,
and I think specifically in this report, I'm speaking to like maybe some of those Black associations.
Okay.
Specifically. And then visiting librarian program could be something that's really cool with featuring African-American professionals, best practice sharing of recruiting Black professionals in library science. Maybe we can partner with other libraries. Kat had a fantastic idea. I cannot take credit. It was for an African-American children's lit specialist librarian. So like somebody that focuses on children's collections that is African-American and has like a study in that. And there are people out there like that. When you're looking at the some of the school librarians might even be a good place to go with that too. And they have an organization with maybe a higher population of African-American people, Black people. And then within NPL, professional develop, upward mobility, just really empowering our staff that's here. A lot of our staff, I think all of our staff that's Black is part-time. Are we offering those upward mobility opportunities to work more hours, to maybe get more experience? Can we even, I talked to a librarian from, she was like on the west side of the state, and she said that one thing that they do is that they get their people that work there already who don't have degrees. They encourage them and try to see if they're interested in going to school for library science, and they'll foot the bill. So even those people that are part-time, some of them that may not have a degree, can we empower them to be encouraged in library science? And then a Black substitute librarian program. We already have substitute librarians that come all the time. Can we make sure that we have a specific program to target this community that's been underserved and marginalized? Following the PLA, I'm sticking to what our organization has said and all of the organizations in library. There's more data from the field on that, on Racial Equity Alliance. So you have a link on that. Our second equity committee meeting, we actually came up with some goals. So there's 4 of those. And one is to positively and effectively influence outreach and partnerships pertaining to race relations at the Novi Public Library, increasing hiring opportunities, upward mobility for marginalized populations, and marginalized. So we're looking at everybody, okay? Obviously the main topic has been on Black people because they have been the topic for obvious reasons. There's obvious systemic racism that's happened in the community. It's all over. There's books that we've actually put out to people that talk to that. Our panelists have talked to that. So I don't want it to be the elephant in the room. They are the most underserved based on what we actually have been promoting as a library, right? But I do want to make sure that we are looking at all marginalized communities as well. So that is in the goals as well. We're looking at, because we don't have a lot of diversity in general in our library. We don't reflect our community. And then 3, staff and community advocacy, awareness, and education focused, monitoring our racial footprint as far as collections, involvement, and accountability. That staff part, I have to give credit to Jeff because I didn't have staff in there at first for number 3, and he mentioned make sure you put staff in there, so I did. And then there's just other points of discussion that we had that day. We talked about the podcast a little bit. We talked about Wayne State. At that point, I had not even seen the city's commitment because I can't find it on the website. It is not, it's not easily findable. Even to this day, I can't find it anywhere. I've just seen it in our packet, so I'm not sure about that. But that was brought up at one of our meetings about their statement, and I couldn't really speak to it because I hadn't seen it, which I think visibility is really important, just a note for us. There was concern about how long it's taking us to make this commitment. And then Oh, and then I mentioned, okay, I'll move on. Okay, so then there's some more statements in here. ALA President Wanda K. Brown. There's a Libraries Respond program, hashtag Libraries Respond. And this program evaluates policies, making sure that public knows the library's stance, and they understand, and this is from libraries, our industry, understand that it is not a political stance to state that Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter at school. They have some other information in there for people. And then they say, be prepared to respond to an all lives matter stance. So they are asking people in the library community to be prepared to respond to that because there will be pressure against saying Black Lives Matter. Be aware of the ways your library may not seem welcoming. Are we being respectful to each other when we talk to each other? Are we being kind? Are there security guards? Are there clerks that yell? Those are the things that we want to kind of think about. Rethink our patron codes of conduct. I think we do a great job with being welcoming overall, but it's something that we shouldn't rest on our laurels. We shouldn't just think, I'm sure we're nice. Like, we need to be aware and look for those opportunities so we can grow. Let's see. And there's a call to action there. Examine the language you use. Are Black Lives Matter groups considered protesters, rioters, looters, or thugs? The language used to describe this movement is rooted in white supremacy. And that is from Libraries Respond. And then they talk about invoking the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King, but also remembering that his message had been very diluted lately and co-opted. Speaking of,
could I interrupt? I apologize. I guess my question is, I appreciate all this information.
Can I continue? I worked really hard on this, and I promise I won't.
But I guess my question to you is, what does this have to do with the committee?
I would love to be able to continue because if you don't want me to continue, that'd be interesting. But I think it matters to talk about this. We spent a lot of our last meeting on this, and I think it's education. I'm not going to go through everything, I promise. But I think if we're not educated on these issues, how can we even commit to our community when we can't commit to listening to me talk about how Black Lives Matter or about the information from our own industry?
You sent us all this information, correct?
I'm sorry?
We just received this like within a few minutes before our meeting, so we haven't even had a chance to.
You haven't, so that's why I'm sharing it with you. I'm just going like everything else that was shared extensively. I've never seen a presentation cut off in the middle in this way, so.
Okay.
I hope I'm able to finish.
I was just curious if, I appreciate the education that you're giving us, but I guess I'm just, inquiring about what is this with the actual committee and what you're doing? Like you shared the goals, which was wonderful, but I guess
I'd like to continue if I can, please.
Okay. If I have more questions, I'll let you know.
And I think this speaks to some of the issues. One of the things I shared earlier from PLA is making sure that we're welcoming and making sure that we're heard. And right now I do not feel that way.
That's okay.
I'd like to continue.
I guess I'm looking for exactly what did, the report is what the Equity and Inclusion Committee has accomplished and what their goals are.
Learn more if you listen to me, but you cut me off, Melissa. Okay. And I think
I asked for, if you would mind if I had a question. So I just had a question for clarity. So I'll let you continue.
Okay. So, yeah. So again, promoting Black Lives Matter information from Libraries Respond, staff development, commit to hiring Black workers. These are some of the things that we talk about all the time. These are some of the things, I hope they're important. I hope that we see that because these are the things that we literally grade our library on, but they're the things that also it's our industry actually speaks to this. I know that there's been talk of like aligning with the city, and I wonder, are we interested in aligning with our own industry, or even hearing what our industry says? And I don't expect everybody to do the work I did. I really tried to dedicate a lot of my time to doing this during a global pandemic where I'm not even answering the phone. So I just really want to be respected. I don't really feel that way right now. I will say that on record. So there's more statements in here, just really quick from different library leaders. I think it's important to understand that we can't be performative. It's really easy to say, we have a diversity committee, we're done. And there's this, there's just some information there on not being performative and actually being about the mission. I think it's important, and I understand that I'm the Black one on this trustee board. So maybe these things stand out to me in a different way because I've experienced some of these things, so that's possible. But I I did research to make sure that everything that I'm sharing is in line. And I do want to make sure that everybody understands these are not Tara's words. So I think if we care about libraries, we would want to hear that, or even like read these things, these statements, because they're the words of leaders in our library industry. And I'm hoping that we want to be aligned with that. I really do. American Libraries Magazine also has some statements, and there's some blurbs in there and more resources on Spectrum. So you guys have this packet. It is a lot of information. I did want to make sure that no one felt left out of our equity work. I don't want to seem like we're a backdoor committee. I don't want to seem like we're trying to hide or anything of that nature. I think it's so important to share it. And I think if, like, I'm a taxpayer here, right? So I'm not just here as a trustee. If I was watching this not as a trustee, I'd want to hear this. Especially, I would want to hear this. That would make me feel good about my library, that they went through the trouble of doing this work, because we're talking about making a commitment. We have to hear our community to make that commitment, right? Like, that's so important. So that's what I have to share.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions, or discussion? All right, thank you. Before we move to 13, I know I have our meeting for 2 hours. Do we need to take a 5-minute break just to refresh, water, restroom, or should we continue? Continue? Okay, just wanted to check. All right, public comment. In order to hear all citizen comments at a reasonable hour, the library board requests that speakers respect the 3-minute time limit. This is not a question and answer session, therefore library board members will not respond to questions. It is an opportunity to voice your thoughts with the Novi Public Library Board of Trustees. Moderators, do we have anyone that would like to participate in public comment? We have to give them a minute to unmute. Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, number 14, board for matters for board action. So the first one is A, which is approve the retirement incentive opportunity. I'm sorry, not correct.
How do we, and Julie, maybe ask you, with the modifications to the budget, do we quickly have to make a motion for change to the agenda to add that for matters of board action?
We did. That's C. I mean, that's B. So we changed the order of those, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I only have an A and B. And
when we were voting on the agenda, we did additions. So we changed A to approve retirement incentives. B would have been the budget for 1920.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And then C and D were approve the commitment, and then we added the city's diversity statement. Okay, so am I correct with A, approve the retirement incentive opportunity? All right, so Julie kind of went into details. It's what the city is doing. If all four, it would be a $48,000 cost to us plus vacation time. And then those 4 positions then would have to be filled. So any discussion, questions, or that we need to move before I request a motion? Seeing no hands going up, I'd like to request a motion to approve the retirement incentive opportunity.
Approve.
Okay, Tara.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Thank you. All right, Trustee Dooley, second it. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Trustee Lawler, did you say aye?
Aye.
Trustee Messerneck, did you say aye? Aye. Awesome. So all approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'll move forward and and then I can report back as to how that is being received.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. And then the next one is the budget for 1920 for 268. And we can find that on page 34 and 35, correct?
And I'll be able to give you some additional figures that, again, were provided to the Finance Committee, but the board as a whole does not have those total numbers because I was able to run one more report that had affected the personnel. So what I shared with, if you want to look on page, just to do some comparisons. So let's start with page 39, okay? So you're looking right now, this would have been through the 10th of July, but we had to run more numbers. We weren't finished with getting all the calculations to finalize the year end. So I have different numbers that I'm going to give to you at the same time. So if you're looking at page 39, go to the year-to-date balance as of 6/30/2020. And in that first line of permanent salaries, it says 924,573. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. The new report that was just run, which should be as accurate as possible because we finalized a final pay period, which had to be added more to it. Final number should be 931,830. Then go down to 2 lines to temporary salaries. In your page 39, it says 652,672. My final report is 657,541. If you continue going down, Social Security on your page 39 says 119,313. Final report is 120,214. And then down another couple lines to insurance, it's 716.99. It's insurance employment reimbursement. Page 39 would have 34,341. It is 34,660. And then the last line for me to bring to your attention is 718,200, which is the pension defined contribution. In your report, you have 41,533 on page 39. The new number is 41,85335. So those numbers have gone up a little bit. And then when you look across to see budget used, you can see we're over 100%. What my recommendation is to increase these numbers by small amounts to bring them just to even them out. For example, I gave you 931,830, bring it up to 932. That will allow us to be under 100. We approve that. We're still going to be very much in budget. It's just making this personnel line under 100% so that we're not in a concern for auditing in that particular category.
Why do you say 100%? I can't figure that math you're talking about here.
Well, because we're over 100, which means we've used more than what we were supposed to. We should be at 100% or less, but we're over that 100%. If you look at the full category on your page 39.
You made it sound to me like we were 100% over budget.
No. Well,
so
no, do you know where I'm?
We're slightly over budget.
If you look at page 39, right now it reads we're 1.50, 1%, 1.50% over.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. And actually in the new numbers, it's actually 2.35% over, okay, in comparison. What I'd like to do is make sure we are under 100% in order to give them these numbers for auditing purposes so that we don't look like the category has exceeded the 100%. Does that make sense?
So we would be adjusting our 2019-2020 amended budget to reflect these new numbers.
We would.
I second that.
Okay. And we do stay completely under budget. As you know, Trustee Wood already shared, we are very much in good standing when it comes to our expenditures this year. But these adjustments have to be made.
Yeah, they're very small.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know, and I know they're small, but I just don't want us to cause any auditing concern to the city when they go forward in the fall.
Absolutely. All right, perfect. Thank you. Any additional questions?
I make the motion.
Wait, we have to see if there's any questions or discussions before you do that. I want to make sure everyone gets heard. All right. No hands up. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the newly amended budget for the 2019-2020 amended budget?
So moved.
Yes. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against?
I would be happy then to follow up to give you final numbers for August so that you can see those exact amounts, which would be shared then with the city. Whatever you're getting in the August packet, the city will get the same.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let me get back to my booklet. I apologize. I had to turn it upside down, so I lost my pages. I apologize for the delay. Thank you for your patience. All right. C is the approve the commitment for the Novi community. So I would just kind of like to begin and go on record that unfortunately at this time, I feel that I'm not comfortable passing this current commitment statement. And I know that we are late coming to the game, and I understand. And I really, I know there's a lot of work that would still have to be done to get in line. We would have to have more committee meetings. We'll have to put it to the attorneys, and the attorneys cost taxpayer money. And I believe that we had great intentions and we moved very quickly. And I think we missed a few steps. I felt that, I know I felt, let me say it that way, I apologize for we, under a lot of pressure, and we wanted to do the right thing. And after the last month, a lot of reading, watching, looking at what the city, I just can't, unfortunately, at this moment, vote to approve this. So that is my thoughts.
Question, Melissa?
Just one moment, please. And then, and I'll open the board up to you, I promise. And, you know, reviewing what the city has wrote that, you know, it is a great, in my opinion, it is a very thorough statement, and it is for the entire Novi community. I feel our statement definitely is not inclusive, which is part of who we are to include. And I feel like we have left a big part of our community out, and that is not who we are and what the library is about. And that is my thoughts. So I will open it up. I will start with Trustee Michener, and then I'm welcoming anyone else's thoughts and before we move forward. Go ahead. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate you sharing your heart. I was just going to, you said you read a lot and watched a lot, and I wanted to know what you read and watched.
You know, I watched a lot of what the city is doing, what the library has done in the past, you know, with our programming and, you know, with what we're looking for the future, our strategic plan and reaching out. Our strategic plan is enhance core interactions with our diverse community. And so that is one of our strategic plans. And our goals for our library staff and director is about that. So that is, to me, our strategic plan has our action steps for what we're going to do. Empower universal literacy. Excuse me, I'm going to take it out.
No worries.
Empower universal literacy. Our statement is here. This is what we're doing. We are about universal literacy. And then escalate an innovative and inclusive culture. This is the feedback we received from many, many people in our community of anyone who wanted. We listened, and it took hours and days. And so to me, our strategic plan has our goals on it. And what the Novi says is diversity is our Novi's greatest strength. We come from many places and together have built an open, inclusive, and welcoming community. I believe that is our library. Anybody at any time is welcome in our library, and Julie has an open door policy. We live in peace and unity, and racism has no place in Novi and will not be tolerated. That's exactly what we stand for, in my opinion. As your local government, we will continue to commit to accountability, training, honesty, transparency, and communication to ensure each and every person is treated with the highest level of dignity and respect, which is exactly what the library stands for. We will continue to have a culture of accountability, and we will treat every contact as an opportunity to build public trust. Again, our library is inclusive, and that is my thoughts. We respect the sanctity of life and will work every day to ensure justice and equity for all. And to me, that is what the library stands for. And I think our actions will then be our next steps of what we will be doing. So thank you for the question.
No, I appreciate that. And I'll just say my piece and then it can move on. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's good to hear your heart. What I'll share is that I think that our first two talks on race actually speak to why this commitment that we wrote before is important and not a blanket statement that says we're already doing this work. But those would be good to watch. Also, the books that we recommended, Stamped from the Beginning and White Fragility, those are books that our library actually mentioned to our community to actually read. But aside from that stuff, the reason why, you asked me, like, do we need to go through all this? Why is this important? It's important because there are some opportunities for education if people are open to them. And I think the cool thing about being trustees in a board of 7 is that we all get a vote. And I don't want to take your vote away. So please understand, I'm not trying to convince you, but I do want to throw out some education that I think is important when it comes to race relations. I would love if racism wasn't really active in Novi. I can tell you it is, but I'm going to see it probably first, being who I am, if that makes sense. So I can tell you that it's actually, if you watch last week's school board meeting, there was a stack bigger than my presentation, unfortunately, of complaints that came in about kids that had been, and parents that had been, unfortunately, targeted racially. It was so long that they weren't able to finish it, and that you have to actually go and download it now. I mean, we have a hall in Novi schools called Africa. We have a problem. So I just want to make sure that we're clear. And it's great if we think that we don't. We have a lot of people of different ethnicities, and that's awesome. But everybody isn't treating everybody equally. I would love if they did. And in my family, we do that. We have everybody at our dinner table. I would love if we all could get there. But we're not there. But we can grow. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's kind of where I'm coming from. But from an industry standard, so that was just my response to you, Melissa. Now I'll talk for me. And I do appreciate your thoughts. I want to hear your heart, But from my thoughts, guys, I do see it quite often, and I don't like that I see it. But there is the opportunity to grow and change. I think when we make a standard commitment, kind of like how Sharon said in her statement, a public statement that supports the Novi Public Library's commitment to Black lives in Novi, I think following even our own library organizations in our own industry is really being true to our industry. Everybody has done it. The conferences that we pay for, they've actually made very more intense statements than us. But that's why I would still approve the first statement or something along those lines. As far as the city statement, I think we need to look at a couple things. This is really important. And when we talk about systemic racism, it is very important. This basically is well written. I can't find it on the website. I can't find it anywhere. This is the first time I've seen it in public in my library board packet. That already is an issue. It doesn't mention the Black community. Well, the Black community was mentioned because George Floyd's neck was sat on for like 9 minutes. And these types of things have been happening and people have been not worrying about it or erasing it. But systemic racism is a real thing, guys. And if we're not educated about that, I encourage us to get educated about that, because if we are informing, inspiring, including, and we're missing the systemic racism that's happened with Black people, then we are failing our community, I promise you. It doesn't just benefit me to know about racism for Black people, it benefits everybody. You know, I think we're all together, right? But being together means that you care about a community that has been systemically oppressed. So I'll throw that out there. So that's why Black people were mentioned specifically. Also, when we talk about nobody's diversity, usually in literature, Black people aren't typically mentioned as the diversity. Usually it's our great Novi community, and then they mention other communities, not usually Black people. We're usually erased in some ways when we're mentioned. The statement doesn't mention us either. It's these three people I respect, I like, I think they're smart people. We have to be clear. They are white, they are men. I think when we're talking about systemic racism and understanding like just the depth, it needs to come from a place of experience. But there is no Black leadership in Novi when it comes to our city. And I'm the Black leadership on this trustee board, right? So I think just understanding there are some things that we could work on. If we say that, you know, racism has no place in here and it doesn't exist here, then we're not really being true. And maybe they haven't experienced it, and that's fair. But that's when we talk to our other community members and say, hey, Tara, have you ever felt like anyone was racist to you? You know, hey, you know, ask different people, have you felt this way? Just to get an understanding and a pulse. Also, they're all men, you know, so I think just like having a thought for diversity, even the people that make the statement, having some diversity in that is really important. So I wouldn't support adapting this statement. And according to our own library organizations, they were very strong about not succumbing to comfort, because I know this is very uncomfortable. I talk about this stuff a lot, but I know it's not comfortable for everybody, and I appreciate you guys listening. But I'll just throw those things out to you. So I am not in support of this tonight, but I am eager and willing to continue to help, to educate. I hope the packet is helpful. Whatever I can do to make this place better, I'll do. I promise you, I'm not here because I want to run for anything. I'm here because I think I'm needed. I have no interest in any kind of politics at all. I'm very happy in my career. I love what I do. And this is a lot of work, but I think it's important. I love libraries, and I think that we can make a big difference. You know, coming from a culture that was, it was illegal for Black people to read. I mean, you have to keep that in mind. There's systemic issues that are at play here. And you do have to go backwards, you know, to understand some of that stuff. But those are the books that we push. Those are the Talking Racism series that we push. So we have to either be about what we're putting out to the community, or are we just putting this out to the community but not really agreeing with it? Or with our own industry, who all is in line with the things that I'm saying. So I will stop talking now and let someone else share their thoughts.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Wood?
Yeah, you know, I want to just go on the record right away and just say I'm not in support of either statement as is. I'll state from the city perspective, I don't think we should copy and repeat what the city states. We are our own organization. We are our voice. It should come from us. It shouldn't be repeating what the city states. But I do agree with points that Trustee Mishner stated. The reason for this statement is because of events that have occurred. And so we should address that head on. Number two, with the statement that we had after, you know, I made the comment, I will state this during our last meeting, that it was a good first draft. And I want to be very clear, draft. I didn't say that was a final product, but as I really looked into what other libraries have posted, when I look at what corporations have posted, what I look at continually, I think that, you know, we really put in there a lot of commitments that are very specific. that I don't think we are ready to make those commitments. I think that's the whole purpose of the Equity and Inclusion Committee, is to look at what actions we need to take and where we can improve. And I think we all, I come from, I'm an engineer, come from the automotive space. I think, with that thinking, we're always in a continual improvement mode. We can't sit here and say that everything is right and everything's perfect. We always have to look at ways we can improve, and we're human, right? And yes, there is racism that is out there. And, are there things that we can be doing better? I think we should, look in the mirror and see what we can do overall. But with that said, I think we need to have a better statement that is something that we have to vote 100% that we are all behind that statement. So I think we do need to work on that, but that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Trustee Dooley?
Thank you. So as it stands right now, I'm also not in agreement to fully support either draft or recommendation to use the city's statement. The reason being, number one, the initial draft, and I want to put it out there, is Trustee Augusta put a lot of heart and soul in what she thought was right as the initial statement. I think she can agree with that. And then when I kind of look at the draft, I have to take it through another lens of some other feedback. And what I feel like was left out was we were leaving the library up in a couple situations that didn't acknowledge the work that we already do for the community when it comes to discussing racism and diversity. So that's something that we were kind of leaving ourselves up for. It wasn't included in the document, which I apologize, because I also reviewed the document, and I didn't catch that the first time. The other thing is with the commitment, one of the things that maybe wasn't stated clearly enough, which I appreciate, the feedback from the community. Sharon Trumpy had added something about a diversity audit with regards to materials. And I don't think that was explicitly stated. And I feel like if we're going to be committing to something like this, we need to revise it and kind of look at those things. The reason why we put out a commitment is a couple things. We're late when it came to supporting the Black community. We were called out on it. And I'm going to accept that as a person of color, but I'm going to be honest. I've been told I don't present as one. And I had to I had to sit down and think about it. And that's what I want the community and the city to also recognize, is that I don't want people to look at this commitment and automatically get defensive, because that's not what this was for. But also, we have to acknowledge the pain and the systemic racism that the Black community went through. And to not acknowledge it in our commitment or a statement is a complete disservice. And it's not what we were intending to do. So I want that to go on record, that we do have to acknowledge that. But at the same time, we also need to make sure that we are continuing with the inclusion and equity of Novi's diverse community. I grew up in a community that was not diverse. And I also experienced some issues because of that. And that's why I love Novi so much, is because we are diverse. But to negate the pain and not acknowledge the Black community when we do work on this statement is an issue for me. And it's not political. It's entirely coming from a space of humanitarianism. And because libraries are the great equalizer. I've talked about this with other trustees. Trustee Augusta has told me, you know, wow, that's great. I'm not going to take credit for that statement because I read it somewhere else, and I think it was on PBS, but that's what we do. We're open for all. But at the same time, when there's a segment of society that does feel pain, visible pain, we're also a place that has to open our door and recognize that through education, through information, through inclusion. That's our job. And so, sorry. Right now, what I would say is that we have to look at this draft and think about it together. I don't want anything to come out that all of us can't stand behind. But we do have to acknowledge Black lives. If the actual phrase Black Lives Matter is something that people are having problems with, we have to have an open discussion about that. But there are other ways to acknowledge it. If that's what's holding it up, we have to discuss that too. There's just a couple things in the verbiage that I feel like we can fix and we can create a bridge. I even workshopped it a little. So I hope that, you know, that's something that we can bring to the table for discussion for later. So this is a working draft. And I really want to emphasize that. This has to be right. And, you know, if we decide to do a statement first and then release the commitment, all right, but it has to come from us. And we really do have to acknowledge what's going on right now in a very thoughtful manner, especially to the Black community. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Dooley. Trustee Lawler?
Yeah, when we first met last month, I came into the meeting thinking that I wanted to know what the city was going to do, because I didn't think necessarily that every branch of the city would be issuing their own document. I don't know whether Parks and Rec has issued anything. I don't know whether the Treasury's office or the assessor's office have issued things, and they see the public too. Now, we're a little different than some of those organizations, but I came into the meeting thinking, well, let's see what the city's doing, and then we can talk about what we might do. But as has been mentioned before, it is a very volatile topic and a very important topic. And I think it kind of developed some momentum last month, and it kind of got to a place that I sort of forgot to bring out the issue about the city, and sort of also bought into what we were doing. Upon reflection, I'm in a place now where I'm not sure that's the thing to do. And I think what we're trying to do in our document, even though there's some tremendous work in there, some tremendous action items and ideas, but I think it's gotten a little bit too broad and it's trying to accomplish a few too many things for what might be the real intent of it. So I'm not in a position to approve it as is right now, yet I do want to do something, and I'm not exactly sure what the proper format should be. I want to address some of the wrongs that have happened out there that are very, very, very tough to see, and I'm not even Black, so I can't really feel it the way Black people do, but I'm a human, and I can tell that a lot of the actions that have happened are way wrong, and they upset me. But I'm not in a position to approve the document as it stands today, but I am interested in working on something that meets everybody's needs.
Thank you, Trustee Lawler. Trustee Mesternick?
Let me start by saying I'm very appreciative of everybody's comments on this. I was concerned that it would get out of hand and it hasn't at all from anyone. We have some differences of opinion, and I think it's good that we're able to express those the way we have. I wrote myself just a couple notes as I read what's on page 45, and some of it's been talked about, so I'll go through it quickly. But I think we already have 3 statements that are part of the library that are very similar to and address some of what's in there. Our mission statement is that we will provide resources and programs to support educational, cultural, informational, and recreational needs of the community. Our value statement says that we support intellectual freedom and access to informational resources for all while maintaining the privacy of its patrons and providing a safe and secure environment. Our vision statement states that the Novi Public Library is a center for community activity and a source of local pride. It fulfills the needs of the community in a comfortable, user-friendly, well-staffed facility that is capable of adapting to change. For several years now, our actions and decisions as a board have been guided by those as well as our motto of inform, inspire, and include. I think those have all served us well. There are aspects, certainly, like Bill indicated, maybe it doesn't go without saying, but so I'll say it. Some of what we've all seen on television is totally unacceptable and needs to be dealt with by whatever the appropriate parties are. But when I read what's on 45, there are some things that did bother me. Our library has a strong history, both recent and past history, that demonstrates significant educational and programming opportunities and activities addressing the needs of all of the various communities that make up Novi, including the Black community, but certainly not limited to it. We've had programs for a wide array of the community of Novi. When I read page 45, it seemed to me like that was ignored, and it suggests pretty strongly that we need to do things specifically for the Black community. I won't say in lieu of others, but I got that impression, and I was troubled by that because we want to be the library for everybody in Novi. There's a couple things that I honestly don't know the answer to, but one of the things it talks about in the statement on page 45 is diverting money and resources to go to money, by the way, that's been primarily coming from taxpayers in Novi, and divert that to non-Novi libraries and to unnamed organizations and task forces. I question whether this is what the Novi taxpayers actually want us to do with their money, and quite frankly, I have no idea if we are legally able to do that to any extent. And I just raised that as a question. I don't know the answer. As far as the Black Lives Matters, I find it very interesting, and I'm sure people would like to educate me on this, but the words Black Lives Matter by themselves make a ton of sense to me. What I struggle with is what appears to be the entire Black Lives Matter movement, which encompasses so many other things. For instance, the movement for Black Lives recently introduced something called the Breathe Act, which is a piece of legislation, and that calls for police defunding, police demilitarizing, the elimination of DEA, elimination of ICE, and a whole variety of things in that area. As a citizen of Novi, I'm very proud of our local police department and the way the city is run, and I would not be willing to support something that is supporting defunding and eliminating the police department. I think that would be a mistake. Certainly for Novi, I think that would be a mistake. I think we need to focus on Novi because that's what the Board of Trustees is for. It's for the operations of the Novi Library. It's not for bigger and broader areas than that. I think we're meant to focus on the Novi Library Board. I do like the statement that the city put out that you see on page 46, and I would be in favor of supporting that and adopting it for the library. That's all.
Sir. Trustee Yu?
Hi. All right. So,
Trustee Mesternak, thank you.
All right, am I good now? All right, so I agree and appreciate with a lot of the comments of the previous trustees that have spoken. So at the moment, I can't support either statement going out the way that it is. And my mindset has changed on how I'm thinking about the commitment that we have and then statement that Novi has put out. So starting off this week, I thought, our commitment letter is good. We have action plans. And my mindset was, we haven't put out a blanket statement like the city or other organizations. And I think at this point, a commitment like the one we have is needed because it has action plans. However, now that I'm kind of reflecting and looking back at it, I think we still need this. Don't get me wrong. But I think especially now with the formation of the Equity and Inclusion Committee, and Trustee Mishner has done an excellent job of researching information. And I think that would be that committee, just with all the research you've done and other things that can be done, getting feedback, can really feed and build this commitment statement to how it needs to go. That way we can all support it, kind of like fine tune it some more. Because I think back at last month's meeting, I think it was last one that we were essentially called out for not having a statement yet. So we kind of put this together, Trustee put our as and we just kind of we quickly put things together. I think it's good now that we're taking a step back at least to think about make sure to support it. I don't know if you want to just put out a blanket statement, but fine tune it to how like we work, because the statement from Novi is great for them, but we are different because we are an information source, resources, and to learn for knowledge and information. So if we were to come up with this general statement like that, I think we need to fine tune it to how we are as an organization. I've looked into other libraries. I did that last month, but this month I looked into more libraries around us and public libraries. And I think that they have a statement like just a general statement, but they also talk about what they've done to combat racism or to enhance their diversity, which I don't think we really talk about in our commitment letter. So it'll be something to look into. Standing with the ALA, the PLA, like Trustee Mishner has included in her research, is something important also if we agree with that route. So those are my comments. So I can't support it right now, but I think we are on a right track to put something out going forward, but I don't think we're there just yet. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for sharing. All right, so I guess looking at the approved to the commitment to Novi, I think we're all in agreement that it's definitely not in a place that it's ready to even be sent out. So I'll take that off the table. And then I guess I'm going to go to
Do you want to vote, Melissa?
Oh, okay.
I mean, can you just take it off the table, or do we have to take a vote since it's?
Yeah, we've taken it off the table, and then we can just say
We haven't always voted.
Yeah, we can bring it back another time.
Coming back for more drafts. It
Yeah.
will continue to come back as more drafts.
Okay.
Right. Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure. Sorry, it wasn't clear. My apologies. And then I guess I'm going to, talk about adopting the city. I know everyone kind of talked about it a little bit, and they don't feel, we have kind of mixed reviews. So I will, is there any additional comments, questions about that? And then I will request a motion to approve the city's diversity statement. I'm just going to ask to put it on the table, and I think Trustee Dooley, you made a great point that we could, if we want to put out a statement, put that out, and we could still work on our commitment. So I guess that's what, I guess that would be something that I would, look at. I mean, people have mentioned we haven't created a statement, and if we're fine with waiting and getting it right, that's okay too. But I mean, it's going to cost a lot of time. It is going to cost money because we have to have our attorneys review this. So, we talked about things in our commitment letter and taxpayers' money, and I just don't know, I'm just concerned with the amount of money that the attorneys are going to have to cost. So that's my concern.
I don't think I agree with you that we have, if we have a statement that we have to have a lawyer review it. So I don't agree with that statement.
I do. I think we need to have an attorney because we have to make sure that we aren't creating a situation where we're going to be making other, we have to protect the library. That's part of our job, is to make sure
if we craft the right statement, I'm going to go on the record. I don't agree with that. So
I appreciate
I don't think we should make it sound like it's going to cost money to make an appropriate statement.
Okay. Well, all right.
I'm also confused, Melissa. Are you trying to push the city statement through right now? Is that what you're doing?
I'm going to request a motion to.
I thought we just said
and then we can do a
I
vote.
thought we listened to everybody and we said we were going to take the vote off the table. So, it's late and I'm tired. Maybe I haven't had enough caffeine. So I just want to make sure I understand what's happening right now.
I took off the commitment to Novi, the letter that we wrote, because everybody in their comments stated that the letter we wrote is not ready to be voted on.
They also agreed that most of them, I think Craig was the only one that agreed that he liked the city statement on record. So it's just interesting that that's going to go to a vote. I'm just confused. That's all, especially when.
You know what? I'm going to reverse so that I'll make sure both of these will have a chance, so that I will not be looking like I'm trying to push a motion, because that is not my intentions. So I will go back. I would like to request a motion to approve the commitment to Novi community statement that is presented in the packet. All right, there's no motion to approve, so we will move forward. So now I would like to make a motion to approve adopting the city's diversity statement. Do I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Trustee Mushnick.
I make the motion that we adopt and support the city's statement of diversity.
Perfect. Do I have a second? All right. I do not have a second, so the motion will not move forward. All right. See, so everybody has it. So then what I would say is that we should go back to the draft that's in our book. And I think after hearing everybody's thoughts, concerns, then this is where I guess I'm not sure. The marketing committee has been the committee that has worked on it from the beginning. So to me, the heart, the soul, the listening to, I would like to continue with the marketing committee to work on this. And then meet as a group, include Director Farkas, and then I would request that this goes to an attorney before it is presented back to the board, because I feel that it is important that our statement does not could not cause any harm to the library and our community.
I just want to understand, are you taking it away from the equity committee when it's an equity issue?
I don't think the equity committee has had it yet. So it's only been to the marketing committee. Yes, Trustee Dooley?
If it's okay to add, so last month was when we first formed the equity committee. And if you'd oblige me, I think that because we now have that committee, I really think that if we're going to be doing an equity and inclusion commitment to the community, that our committee, partnering with Julie too, that we're going to craft that together. I mean, we could send it to marketing after to review to make sure that, grammatically, everything else looks in line. But I feel like now that we have a new committee, that would be the appropriate place to workshop this.
All right. Trustee, you? He's frozen.
Yeah.
Trustee-
So, oh, sorry. Am I unfrozen? Frosted? All right. So, being the chair of the event marketing and fundraising committee, I do, like I said in my comments, I do think that this statement, if this commitment statement would be better served on the equity and inclusion committee, and then maybe before it comes back to the board, it comes to us, which Trustee Dooley and Trustee Michener are on both committees. Just maybe to look through before it comes to the board. I know, just an idea.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Julie Farkas?
I just want point of clarification, if you don't mind. At what point will we be having the opportunity to share it with our staff in order for them to feel comfortable with it? At this point, I wouldn't want to put myself or the staff's names on it. I want, and I'll go back to Trustee Michener at our June meeting, getting the staff involved. We had less than 10% that provided any feedback when I first sent out my thoughts and wanting to hear more of our staff. So I hear you, Trustee Augusta, wanting the attorney. I appreciate that, but I would also like the staff to also be included in offering some thoughts, because they will live it. We will live it. And so I just want that opportunity too, that the staff will also be able to, weigh in to whatever draft we get to at some point before there's an adoption. I feel like it's coming down then totally with, here it is, you live it, and yet we haven't had a chance for anyone from the staff then to weigh in. Like, I know that Trustee Michener had wanted to include staff and get more involvement and get some thoughts and feedback. So I would hope we could do that.
Sure. And I'll speak to that since you mentioned my name, Julie, and thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah, because you mentioned it specifically. I don't want you to think that I heard you, because I agree. We had very little staff, and my worry is, did they not at that time, were they ready for any response? Will there be more response? Do they want to engage? And I would hope that we would engage them before it actually gets approved.
Sure, I think,
and working from it.
yeah, and I think just to make sure my words are really clear, I mean, if it's a commitment to a certain, to our community, I think our community includes staff, includes taxpayers, includes our trustee board. So definitely inclusive in that way. Like we're saying this out in public. We're putting our names out there and saying this is what we believe in. So, I definitely see it from that perspective. I really want to make sure, like, that it's anti-racist, and if people aren't familiar with what that is, there's definitely a lot of research on that, because what I'm hearing tonight in some ways is not in line with the things that we've been teaching this month as a library, and that's disturbing to me. But I think that there's education opportunities, and I hope that we'll take them.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I thought you were still speaking.
No, okay.
So let's run through this together. So as the committee comes up with their draft and it goes to the marketing committee, and then any feedback, and then I think then, Julie, you would feel comfortable then presenting it to your staff?
Yeah, I would love the staff to see what's coming before it's actually approved.
Okay.
They've asked. I have some staff members that would like to be involved in and part of the actual drafting of it. And this is the first time we're having this bigger conversation tonight, which I truly appreciate. And this was the first time that I could share to you that I have people that would love to weigh in. And I think we owe it to them as these people will be living it and taking it from you as leaders, to instill it, implement it, and follow it. We all will be.
I think there's still, again, and I may be the lone person here, but I think we are overcomplicating this. I don't think we make this into an action plan that the staff is implementing. That's something that should come out of the equities group, which is not a statement. You know, we need to make a statement, and that is different than an action plan. And so that's what I think is a problem with our initial statement here. Is we overcomplicated it. We put too much detail in there, and that's why we don't need a lawyer, because we're just we need to make a statement, and we can make a statement stating that very high level. We're gonna look at how we're gonna do some self-reflection, but not go into details. When you're talking about, Julie, absolutely. When we get to that other aspect, not to make a statement, so I think let's take a step back here. Let's Tara, Kat, and I. Let's meet. Let's talk about this. We're going to have some very healthy debate, I'm sure. A lot of, difficult discussions, courageous discussions, and then let's come back. And then, Julie, you'll be part of these also. And
That'd be great. I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, and then we'll figure out where we go from there. Okay, and I think we're putting the cart before the horse here right now.
Yeah, I like that. I think so. What I'll do as equity chair is I will send Julie, Jeff, and Kat an email, and I'll ask you guys your schedules, because we really have been trying to make sure we meet everybody's schedule. Everybody's got a lot going on. None of us are sitting at home doing nothing, right? So I'll send that out, I promise, tonight. And you guys just give me your availability, maybe 3 times that work best for you. We have been doing Tuesday nights traditionally around after 8, after Jeff's done with his meetings. But if that doesn't work for you, Julie, we'll figure out how to make it work, and then we'll go from there. I think I appreciate what you just shared, Jeff. I think we don't want to overcomplicate it. I think it's weird if we do. We're just asking them to care about Black lives and our community as a whole. That's what I get. That's the bottom line. And then from there, what kind of action items can we do? And I think that's kind of what the packet was speaking to, and those 4 goals that we put together as well are going to be really important as well to wrap into that. But there are a couple different things that we can do that I do think will serve our whole community and hopefully meet some needs that have felt unmet. Unfortunately, some people don't feel like their needs are met. Thank you.
Can I ask a question just for clarity purposes? And I'll pull this from Julie's comment too. I think our initial meeting for the Equity and Inclusion Committee wasn't just to be the board. I really thought the committee was to expand to staff and our community. So I guess since we have staff that want to be a part of it, and we've had, business owner who has, wrote us, is there a way to maybe bring them into the initial discussion?
So I spoke to that in the packet I was reading, actually.
Yeah, you did, yeah. I remember you mentioned it, but I was referring to this specific issue. To the equity committee as a whole, because what we were saying is maybe the 4th, if we meet at least one of the meetings a month would be for the community and whoever wanted to come in. I'm sorry. Yeah,
is that what
and I heard that as a goal, but I guess I was asking, why can't that happen for this communication, for this, for our commitment?
This statement should be a statement from our board.
Yeah,
that's
okay. So our board and staff. Okay.
Yeah, this isn't a statement from the community or a statement from the employees of the public library.
And I think, I'm just going to say it, all the community doesn't think Black Lives Matter. Let's just say it, everybody doesn't care about Black lives and nobody. I'd love if they did, but everybody doesn't. Everybody doesn't care about equity. And some people are more comfortable with the way things have been because it works for them. And they may not see the racism that somebody wrapped in this skin sees every day. And it's not just a TV thing for me, unfortunately. So let me say that, I think that's really important. And I hope there's empathy for that. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me, but I think when people talk to me, they don't always think that I'm somebody who experiences racism because I don't shout it from the rooftops every day, right? So I'm sharing that and I'm being vulnerable because this isn't your business, but I'm sharing it to give you a picture of, a person in Novi who's had racism exhibited towards them quite a bit. So we can't say, therefore, that racism doesn't exist in no way. And if you do, then you're not hearing me.
Okay, I appreciate it. And I don't believe that racism does not exist in Novi. I don't. I hear what you're saying. So I want to acknowledge that. And I acknowledge that Black lives do matter. I mean, but I have the same concern that Craig did, is that statement in the movement of Black Lives Matter, that whole movement has become more than just Black lives. And
we did talk about like maybe putting a little footnote at the bottom, and I did mention that in the packet too, but maybe we put a footnote at the bottom that says this is not affiliated with any organization if people think that's what we're saying. Although if you look at the library research on it, they feel a different way in the industry about even that organization than what you're saying. I think, everybody's got their own political views and they're entitled to them. I mean, the city is a political organization, right? So like people have different views in general, right? But when I'm saying Black Lives Matter, I promise you, I'm not talking about an organization. I'm talking about, I want to matter. I want to live. I want my son to live. I want to be okay. That's what I'm talking about. And we're not always.
All right, I hear you. Yes, Trustee Dooley.
Yeah, so I just want to emphasize that I think the initial intent of the document was to affirm and acknowledge the pain of the Black community. You put that in there, Trustee Augusta, Black Lives Matter, and I don't think your intent was to put us involving with a political organization. But like Craig said too, Black lives do matter. That's the bottom line. We're not saying no one else's life matters though. And, that's why we're looking at this document and making sure that, we emphasize what the library does really well, which is informing and inspiring and including. But at the same time, I just want that on record that that wasn't your original intent, Trustee Augusta. I don't think you have had a chance to say that. You weren't trying to align us with any political organization, but we really do want to emphasize that Black lives do matter in Novi and beyond.
We just need to make sure that we're being inclusive, and that's just very, very important. And that's my 2 cents. Okay, so I agree, and Tori, Trustee, I appreciate your feedback about how you're fine with it going to. I guess I was just trying to be respectful of like taking it away, and so I appreciate your feedback that it can, that you would like the sorry, my brain is done. The equity committee will be in charge of that and meet. And so then it can go to the staff, and then we'll bring it back to the board for discussion for next month. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. I don't even know where we're at anymore. We're not in Kansas. We're not in Kansas anymore, I'll tell you that.
We're at the end.
We're at the end. Oh, we have an adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Commissioner, yes. Do I have a second?
Second.
You. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any questions? Excellent. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night. I always love to do the adjournment. If you can't, I'm like, I want to do it. Okay, bye guys. Good night. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Good night, everyone. Appreciate you.